Are we ready? Okay. All right.
Okay. So where's she? Let's get started.
It's my pleasure to call to order the regular meeting of the town council. Start off with the roll call. Please proceed.
Councilmember Fredericks.
Present.
Councilmember Ryan.
Here.
Councilmember Thier. Vice Mayor Nickbar.
Present.
And Mayor Wellner.
Here.
Thank you.
So let's start as we always do with an invitation for anyone who's here who'd like to make a comment on something not on the agenda. You have 3 minutes. Please introduce yourself and make your comment.
I think I saw this. Right, this is. See this.
Good evening. My name is Evan Siegel. I want to again thank all of you for your service. These are unpaid positions and you guys put a lot of time, sometimes 10 to 20 hours a week. And we, the public, owe you a debt of gratitude. I put together a memo that's got 3 points. The first is, as I've observed, these meetings often go late into the night, 10, 11 o'clock. And generally prolonged meetings are, erode the quality of deliberation, and decisions made late at night under fatigue are rarely the best decisions. It's just not respectful to the staff and to the citizens. So I've put together for you a memorandum consistent with the Brown Act about ways to adjust the town meetings so that they better meet the needs of the public. I've talked about this before. Seems to be going and not being followed up on. So I wanted to give you the document. Second is a memo to describe all of your fiduciary responsibilities as town council members. This memo summarizes those your responsibilities as consistent as town council members, consistent with California law and applicable legal standards. Their obligations are from court decisions, state statutes, and federal securities laws. They're not aspirational guidelines. They're legally enforceable duties owed to the residents of Tiburon. And I've provided a copy to the attorney of the town. Lastly, is a memo on the fiduciary concerns regarding approval of the 26-27 budget. The memorandum addresses what I've spoken about before, the serious fiduciary concern whether the town council of Tiburon can, consistent with its legal obligations to the residents of Tiburon, approve the 26-27 municipal budget in the absence of categories of essential financial information. This will go through and discuss how not having current information, projections, or audited financials really calls into question whether you are indeed fulfilling your fiduciary responsibilities. So I would encourage you as the council to put off any decision in terms of approving this budget and to actually consult with the town attorney before any budget vote is taken. Thank you for your time. And again, I appreciate your service.
Thank you. Okay. Any other comments on items not on the agenda?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Hi, Carolyn Shadon. I wanted to ask the town council that you keep your eye and interest on the Greenwood Cove flooding, even though some of those pipes belong to the county. The majority of the water coming in comes from Tiburon, and all of the developments that we have that the town has approved over the years that drain the water to this central point. So I'm hoping that you all will create a subcommittee and designate someone on the town staff to keep in touch with the county, because what we hear on the advisory board is that they have trouble coordinating with the town of Tiburon. And so I think that the town does have an ethical responsibility because we're a community. We're Tiburon. And so when kids can't get to school and people can't get to their residences, it affects all of us. And the flooding condition is getting worse every year. And so I realize that you cannot discuss anything that's not on the agenda, but I'm hoping you will make it an agenda item at the next meeting and have a discussion with staff about the long-term planning. Right now, the flood control district has retained an engineering consultant to assess the problem. And after they assess the problem, they will come up with their proposed remediation. There'll be a large budget, and the small flood control district does not have the funds for that. So we're going to need some type of community involvement because it affects everybody. And it benefits everybody to deal with this. Thank you.
Thank you.
She's through the time to comment, ask staff.
Can you say something?
I did want to say that.
Yeah, but hang on one second. Go ahead.
Hang on. I just want to ask staff, this has been an issue almost since I've been on the council. I went through a period where I attended a lot of flood district meetings. And as the public speaker pointed out, the problem is getting worse, and it's a really complicated drainage model that I think none of us understand. Is there a possibility of just getting some information about what is being drained, where it's being drained, and what the county, Caltrans, and town responsibilities, if any, are, to kind of facilitate the three agencies from working together? And what I'm asking for is some kind of an update to the council. This kind of thing used to be handled at the council staff retreats, but for some reason we don't have them anymore. So perhaps at a public meeting would be an appropriate agenda item.
Thank you. Please introduce yourself and go ahead.
Hi, my name is Shelley Dorff. I live on Greenwood Cove Drive. I am about to buy a canoe. No, just kidding. I have helped older people cross on Cove Drive and not be able to get to their house. I have watched the fire department have to park fire trucks and close off the road because of the flooding. I have watched kids on bikes have to turn around trying to get safely to their schools in the Tiburon area and have to turn around, go back across Tiburon Boulevard and go along Tiburon Boulevard on the north side instead of the safer Greenwood Cove. And I have watched flooding go into and cover both lanes of Tiburon Boulevard. And the problem is a common one between the flood zone floor and Tiburon, which controls and has responsibility for at least one of the three major pipelines, and maybe more than one, that come and connect in the Cove area, as well as all the apartments that are, I think, in your zone, even though our condos are not, we are unincorporated. So I would also ask you to please pay attention to this before some kid falls off a bike and you get sued.
Thank you. Any other comments on items not on the agenda?
Seeing none online.
Okay. All right. So we'll close the public hearing and move to our interviews for vacancies on the Library Board of Trustees. One of our council members is going to be interviewed, so she's stepping down from the dais. Thank you. Laura Fenneman, please come up.
Hi,
Hi.
Hi, thank you. We're good. So, the way this works, we very much appreciate you tossing your hat in the ring and are eager to hear from you. Do you have something you want to pass out?
I just wanted.
Update.
Update one, because I still do that.
Oh, that's great.
So,
Thank you.
I know, so, yeah.
All right, well, thank you. Um, so, you submitted materials, which we have all reviewed. We are, but we have the privilege of meeting you and talking with you in person, so it would be great. Why don't we start off? If you could verbally introduce yourselves to us and maybe say a few words about why you're interested in being on the library board. That'd be
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Laura Peck-Fenema, lived in Tiburon up from the Del Mar School for about 24 years now, quite a while. Interested in being on the board in large part because I think they're doing a fabulous job. In Tiburon, I feel like that there's a very large senior community, and I think the library does a fantastic job of engaging that community. And I just would like to contribute. Yeah.
Great.
So let me tell you a little bit about my background. I started my career as an investment banker doing analysis of tech stocks for portfolio investment inclusion. Strong emphasis on analyzing financials and fundamentals of emerging tech companies. I was super lucky when I got out of college. I landed at one of the few tech investment banking companies at the time, a company called Hambrick and Quist. And they did the initial investment in Apple. They took them public. So I was really lucky to end up there. My real passion in investment banking was research. I did it for about 10 years. Loved the industry, kind of made my mark as a digital voice guru. And I love the research in technology because it results in sort of a tangible outcome because you're recommending stocks to people, to portfolio managers primarily. So I did that for about 10 years and I loved it, but I had zero control of my life. I was always on a plane or called in. I worked most weekends for that entire time. So I decided that I was going to start my own company. And I was living on Green Street and I had a hobby of making these different products, essential oil-based products. Don't worry, I didn't bring any baby pictures or anything, but this is a company I started quite a long time ago and we got a lot of fanfare. And it was a labor of love. I created the products from scratch. I sold them to spas in North America and high-end retailers like Saks and Henri Bendel's. And then in addition to the product development, I did sales and marketing, jack of all trades. I initially did all the financials before we hired somebody. And then for the last 8 or 9 years, reviewed financials, making sure that we were in a strong financial position with a strong balance sheet. After about 12 years, I'm kind of good to do things for about 10 years. After about 12 years, I decided with the growing competition to go ahead and sell the company. And I sold it. I sold it in 2003 to Gilchrist and Soames, who's probably the biggest amenity. The little hotel stuff you get in the hotel rooms. That's Gilchrist and Soames, and they kind of own the market. So it was great. Consulted to them for about a year afterwards. And then I just started doing some board positions. I was on the Tiburon Vector board for quite a while. And I'm now on the Sparkle Reusables board, which is the company's an reusable alternative to single-use plastics and compostables, because you may or may not know, but only like less than 10% of compostables get composted. So anyway, yeah, it's a small company, but they're doing a lot of work in Marin and all over the San Francisco area. I also launched an AI senior management company called Care Diagnostics. It's an interactive personal assistant for seniors. Had the coding done, it worked, but I decided I really didn't want to run a company again and be the CEO of a company. So I know a little bit about the senior population. And I guess that's about it on my work. Personally, I'm married to Frank Fenema since 1994. We're going on 31 years. Yay. And we have one child, Max Fenema, and he's working in AI robotics. One thing that's an issue is that we have a second home in Palm Desert that we bought 4 years ago. We go in the winters when it's cold here. And I have a 97-year-old mother-in-law who's also in the desert a few months every year. And we kind of look out for her. God knows she's probably going to outlive me because she's 98 next week and she's playing pickleball 2 or 3 times a week and golf 3 times a week. I know she's like Benjamin Buttons, and she's totally my role model on aging. So a Zoom would be an issue. And I talked to Crystal Duran about over at the library to see if that was like a non-starter. And apparently they do have approval to be able to Zoom. So that could be an issue. And what do I do for fun? Golf, pickleball. I still do a ton of stock research. I manage money for my sisters and myself, and I do yoga teaching as well. So that's me in a nutshell. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Questions?
Thank you so much, Laura.
Sure.
What would you like to do on the library board if appointed?
I think possibly there might be a need for some financial input. So yeah, I'd like to focus on the financial side of things a bit. Yeah. And also to the extent that they need any help on activities that they're doing, because I think they're doing a great job. I really think they have a really good agenda. Yeah.
Yeah, so just to drill on the Palm Springs issue, how many did Crystal mention how many meetings you'd be away for each year if you do you go for a consistent period of time, and how what percentage of obligations would you be remote for?
Yeah, I think what I was thinking if I was selected for this position, that I would come back for, usually our family stays about 5 months, my husband and I, because that's when my mother-in-law's there. But I think what I would do is come back for like 2 of those months for the meetings and then have to Zoom in for 3. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to come back every month, or I wouldn't want to. Yeah.
Any issues? You've identified a lot of things, or you've commented that the library is doing a lot of things right. Are there any issues, any problems that you've identified that you'd like to work on, or any concerns that you have about library right now, or do you think everything's going swimmingly?
Good question. I think I need to be more involved to know, but what I know of now, I think I'm really impressed with how they're doing in terms of, I just like how they're really engaging the community. I mean, they're coming up with like a knitting hootenanny and, just all kinds of, things that I'm sure there's a lot of people who like to knit. And I think it's fantastic for them to be connected, particularly seniors. So, there probably are some things that, if I was more involved, I would know, but as it stands now, no, I don't know of any issues that I disagree with.
Great. Okay. Thank you. So the way this works is we're also gonna interview another candidate, and then
Gotcha.
in the course of the meeting, it's not certain that we'll pick someone, but we'll probably vote and pick someone to be on the board. I'd like to say in advance, we're a very lucky town in that we have incredibly skilled people
Oh, thank you.
who are willing to volunteer for our committees. Our great regret is that we can't always appoint everybody, but we want to emphasize ahead of time, if tonight, great. If not tonight, there may be other things that could be of interest to you, and we're so pleased that you're coming forward and willing to give your time, and we'll see what happens tonight.
Yeah, thank you, John. I did also want to mention, I do have an interest in the Commission on Aging.
Okay.
So I think there were 2 positions that I indicated interest.
Very good. Thank you.
Thanks for your help.
Okay, next candidate, Alice.
Good evening, council members. I didn't bring my resume with me, but you have it. I would like to comment that I would love to serve on the library board with Laura, but that not being a possibility right now, I will give you some information about my interest. I noted that the existing board is full of people with financial and business credentials and experience. And I think what I can bring to this board is additional collaborative background in terms of my experience in the community, not just on the council, not just working cross jurisdictions and across the region on issues, but just helping to develop policies that activate the strategic plan of the library. I have worked collaboratively with neighbors, neighborhood associations, town councils. I just listed that a second ago. Diversity engagement includes helping establish the ITF and monitoring that committee with the rest of you, as you know. What I am hoping to offer the experiences in activating the library strategic plan is a continued focus on identifying and furthering the connections among their patrons. They talk in their strategic plan about being the center of community. And I think we've seen a lot of those connections disappear during COVID, and some of them have come back and some of them have not. But a lot of them are visible if you go to any of the library programs. And I think working to further that is really important. They further connections across neighborhoods, cultures, local agencies, generations, and we all know their role as a source of books, media, and information. I think policies that they'll address soon in the future that I have an interest in and have participated in, not as an expert, but as a member of a board, are the development of AI policies for their staff, and opportunities for education programs about verifying AI-generated information for patrons of the library and use of their resources. I would love to identify more engagement and volunteer opportunities and even create, the library does regular surveys, but I would love to see a young people's group put together to engage in actual planning to activate what the surveys tell the library. And by young people, I mean school age from our community, because some of these young people have fabulous ideas. They may not be things that can be activated, but they certainly will generate excitement about the library and how to future plan for them. We already have a start on collaboration with other agencies. The Bay Area Regional Energy Network grant that the town and the library are using to create technical and engineering information to create a community resilience center for use during times of disaster. And this is a broader picture of collaboration that the strategic plan offers, and I would love to have the opportunity to work on. And then continuing the education on the use of library resources, because some people find the website daunting, and there are just amazing resources. They're just starting with MarinNet. So the library is a key collaborator in creating community and an informed community, and I would both be honored and excited about being a part of that agency. Any questions?
Questions? Jack, you must have a question.
I can ask the same question. What would you like to do on the library board?
I think I pretty much described it, develop further programs for collaboration, reach out to the community, the younger community. One of my ideas is the way you get people committed is to create volunteer opportunities. And you just can't say, we need somebody to help us do that or this. It has to be embedded in some kind of a program that has a long-term vision. That's what gets people committed and excited. And I would like to be part of that.
So to the extent that there might be some things like projects that involve the property that the library's on and the town hall's on, or something that's a funding request from the library that the town could contribute to, whose side are you on?
Well, that's not as exciting as getting volunteers excited and involved. But actually, we're going to be facing, because of groundwater and other issues, sea level rise projects I already serve on Sea Level Rise Community Marin-wide Committee to identify collaboration, and I can bring that information back to the library and help them to work with the town to address any sea level rise projects, and not just address them in terms of planning them, but planning them far enough ahead in a collaborative way so that we're more eligible for funding.
Any others? All right.
You know, if you have no questions, I can talk forever.
So, as you know, we'll be voting on this in a few
I know.
agenda items.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now we are moving to the consent calendar. Are there any items on the consent calendar that a council member would like to pull off for discussion?
Yes, I would like to pull two items. The first is consent calendar item 1. The second is consent calendar item 2.
Okay, so the 600 Mar West and the budget. So that leaves two other items. Is there anyone who wants to pull those off for discussion on the council? No? All right. Is there anyone, a member of the public who would like to pull off either of the remaining items for discussion? No one online?
Seeing none.
Okay. All right. So I'm looking for a motion to approve items 3 and 4 from the consent calendar.
So moved.
Second. Oh,
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Fredericks.
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
Councilmember Thier.
yes.
Vice Mayor Nick Barr.
Yes.
And Mayor Wellner.
Yes. All right, so let's go back to the first item on the consent calendar, 1600 Mar West Street. So
Yes.
Please go ahead.
I pulled this item because I was not here during the hearing, so I will not be voting on the item.
Oh, I see.
And so if you want to take that.
okay, all right. So you want a separate motion vote, not including you on that one, so you can abstain.
I will abstain.
Okay. Motion?
I move that we pass item 1.
Let's open public
Oh,
comment for
sorry.
that first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, public comment on any public comment on consent calendar item 1, the 1600 Mar West Street pickleball decision. Okay. So no public comment, so I'll bring it back for a motion and vote.
Sure. I move that we approve it as presented.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Fredericks.
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
Councilmember Thier. Abstain.
Abstain.
Vice Mayor Nick Barr.
Yes.
And Mayor Wellner.
No. Okay. Then we go to the second item, bigger item, which is the budget and capital improvement program. I would have also pulled it, so I'm curious why you pulled it. And then
Wait, why did you pull it?
I just wanted to discuss something.
Oh. Yeah, I pulled it. I think that in this case, there was a lot of public comment that was written in that I found very compelling. Some of the items are items that I've also been asking for. I think one of the things that I've been asking for quite a long time are actual expenditures. And on a monthly basis, having the council receive the monthly expenditures every month. Also seeing what the actual expenditures were the year before. I think the 3 to 5 years of financial projections is also a good idea. And I also would like to see that, we get our financial statements up to date. Being 3 years behind is unacceptable. While I understand around COVID and there were some issues with, not having a finance director for part of some time, I do think we need to get these financial statements up to date as soon as possible. And making budget decisions in the absence of this information leaves me feeling like I'm not sure what I'm basing all of my decisions on. I don't want to really vote no on the budget. I'm hoping we could adopt it as a temporary or interim budget and get this information, you know, very, very soon. But normal city councils and town councils always receive a monthly financial report that has actual numbers. And I would really love to have that happen. So those are my reasons for pulling it.
Any other comments?
Comment?
Yeah.
Comment?
Yeah.
Okay. I am not going to really address what exactly needs to be reported. But what is always a problem for me is trying to figure out what money we have to set reserves for our longer term projects. And we don't talk about them very much, and they don't really show up in the budget except maybe in unallocated reserves, which we're required to keep 25% of the operating system, the operating budget in our unallocated reserves as a matter of town council policy. Is that correct? I think that's correct. However, the longer term projects that I worry about are really sea level rise planning, the kind of drainage that the public just talked about. And just we have coming up an assessment of our vulnerabilities, but identify really realistic adaptation strategies and the money to plan for that. Opportunities to consolidate our planning and funding with other agencies. All these kinds of things, I look at the budget and I don't know where that's coming from. And some of the projects that are possible are much longer term, and we've actually talked over a series of general managers of creating reserves for things like acquiring the Richardson Bay Sewer District buildings for a community center. Now that of course means that they have to agree to sell it. So it may be early to start creating a reserve for it. But after 20 years of talking about it, you'd think there'd be a way to just include that in a reserve so that it is always a priority of some kind. Anyway, those are my whines about the budget that I, as a council member, can't look at it and figure out if and when and where money for these longer term projects would come from.
I'll just kind of echo the comments I made last time, which is the budget has nearly doubled over the last 10 years. That's concerning. I'd like to understand in much greater detail why that is and why the budget is growing so significantly. I understand costs go up, understand we do raises every year at a reasonable amount, but I'd like to see a deeper analysis into that. I also I don't think we need to stop the wheels of government until we get answers, but I would, in a very short time frame, like to be able to understand what is driving our increased operating expenditures, and how it so closely matches our increases in revenue. I'd also like to have some resolution on the actuals, audited actuals that we need for, I think it was 2024, 2025, so that we are as close to up to date as possible in terms of having audited actual numbers. And I think that's important also because it changes the conversation. It may be that our actuals are lower than we predicted. It may be that they're higher than we predicted, but we need to understand where we actually stand. So.
Yeah, thanks. So first I'm gonna cut to the chase and say that my plan is to vote to approve the budget for next year at this meeting without amendments. But I appreciate all the public comment and the comments from my fellow council members. And I want to talk to a couple that were highlighted actually by Colin Crawford, partly because he's here and partly because I thought they were kind of spot on in terms of what giving us action to do for things to look at. And he kind of talked about three things. One, he talked about the budgets, how the information is presented in terms of having actuals, and you guys have all said that as well. And then he also talked about getting the audits up to date, and then he talked about considering a finance committee, which we also mentioned. And so working backwards with those, I'd love to have an agenda item at some future meeting to discuss the potential of getting a finance committee. And I would like that agenda item to include analyzing and considering the possibility of an individual, of its own independent board that has maybe a council member on it, but is comprised of citizens that we appoint. I can see a lot of advantages to that in terms of offloading some of the responsibilities of doing a lot of this analysis. And they also would have the expertise to tell us and help us show how to present this information to make it more digestible for the customers, because we've really never given our town manager any guidance about how to organize the budget and show it to us. And we sort of take what he gives us and we look through it to the best we can, and we approve it based on what he's presented. But I think a finance committee could give us guidance that would be incredibly helpful in terms of producing an end product that would be digestible and useful for the public. So I think that would help us with a couple of things. And then with respect to the audits, so also it would be great if we could publish actual information whenever you have the time to, if you're able to compile it, publish it on the website after we pass this budget. And then with the audits, I would be curious to know, like, is there a plan I mean, I appreciate that you've come up with a plan to get the audits done. Is there a point where it would trigger you to say, hey, council, maybe have a capital spend to get us another consultant to get the audits done quicker? Like, is that something we can also consider as a council at a future meeting? Just to see what difference dollars make in terms of getting this done quicker. But I appreciate you're kind of hamstrung by employees now, but if we have money, we can spend it. So I'd love to see it as a council. And then the final thing, and I think Councilmember Fredericks alluded to this, is I would love as a council to meet and talk about long-term big picture spending, because that's critically important. And especially as we have all these cool things we could spend money on, I think we owe it to us and the residents to prioritize it in a coherent way. So that's all I have, but thank you.
You have more? Okay. All right. So I have a couple of comments. With regard to the finance committee idea, I think as an initial step to move forward on that, we do have a pre-existing budget and finance committee, which is typically the mayor and the vice mayor. And so what I'd like to do, we have no meetings next month. I don't know what your vacation plans are, Mr. Vice Mayor, but I would like to have at least one meeting of that committee before our next council meeting, and use that committee to either identify a plan for looking at some of these issues or further consider some of the ideas, for example, that Councilmember Ryan was suggesting about involving the public. So sometime in the next few weeks, we'd like to schedule that meeting with staff and that subcommittee and get started on some of that discussion. Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, as we were discussing this at the last meeting in terms of the finance committee, the light bulb goes off and says, we have a committee called the Budget and Finance Committee. So we should just, as an initial matter, activate that committee and start looking at some of these issues. So that's great. With regard to the issue of long-term spending goals and matching our revenues to our spending aspirations with regard to parks and traffic and other items that are priorities. we as a council have started this conversation. Maybe, I don't know when the meeting was, but a month or two ago, with a requested presentation from the town manager talking about revenue and revenue, whether revenue is matching costs. I think one of the key issues in that discussion are the issues that the vice mayor has raised in terms of what are the actual, what has happened with costs over time. I think that's really critical. But also, when we get back in August, I think we're going to then continue the conversation as a council about revenue options and things we might be need to do as a council in order to make sure that we have sufficient revenue for really some very exciting things that we've all been talking about. And the last item I would want to comment on is, in addition to these various issues that have been raised, I personally am very excited about this year's budget because I feel like we're having completed the Parks Master Plan and then the subsequent work that we're doing to develop individual park plans, and having completed the traffic study and identified some needs there and things that we might be able to do to improve our traffic situation. I was very excited with how things went this year in terms of increasing our reserve for parks. In particular, I want to thank Councilmember Ryan for kind of boldly proposing that we increase that reserve. But I think that's really an important step, and I think it reflects what we've been talking about and thinking about. And so I'm excited that that's happened, and I think that is one positive aspect of what has occurred with regard to this year's budget. So with having said all that, I think we now have time for public comment, and then we'll bring it back to the council for more consideration and a vote. So if there's any public comment on this item, please come up, introduce yourself, and state your comments. Thank you.
Hi, Colin Crawford, Tiburon resident, 15 years. First of all, I'd like to thank all the council members for obviously, taking seriously a number of concerns that were raised by myself and other members of the public regarding the way the 26-27 budget was put together, in particular, the inclusion of projected figures over the last 2 years and unaudited figures from the year before. With projected numbers and not having actuals, you really don't know what is happening in the town at this moment. So if you decide to keep the wheels running and not stopping the process, as Councilmember Ryan was suggesting, I would say that you must put a deadline on the production of a new budget with the actual numbers. The town must have the numbers. I mean, it's in their financial system, so it shouldn't be very difficult to update the budget with actuals from or estimates through to June 26 and actuals from the year before, even if they're not audited. So that's what I have to say on the actual production. As far as the audits are concerned, most well-run organizations will have their audits completed within 6 months of the year end. I spent too many years as an auditor working with public companies. We would work to deadlines much faster than that, usually 3 months, after the year end. You've got to find a way to bring this up to date. Need to sit down with the audit partner if necessary, work out with the town what resources are needed to bring these audit up to date. Because we really want to have the 26 audit ready by early 2027. At the moment, we're 3 years behind. At the February meeting, it was stated that the results to 2024 may be ready in Q3 or Q4. So I really urge you to put a certain amount of pressure on to get the audits up to date. And then finally, on the Financial Oversight Committee, I think it's absolutely essential that there's a proper subcommittee with members from the council and members from the public. Belvedere does this, the Tiburon Library does this, virtually all other organizations do it. At the moment, Tiburon doesn't have a treasurer and it has no oversight committee. So it's really important that the town council takes its responsibilities very seriously and makes sure that we have oversight, governance, and control over a spend of about 28 million next year. So again, thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Other comments? Anyone online?
Yes, I will recognize Chuck.
Thanks, Lee, and I apologize for not being there in person. I am in Denver helping out with my older parents on some stuff that I needed to take care of. First, I'd like to echo what Evan Siegel said at the beginning part of the meeting, which was you all are not paid. This is not full-time work, but it requires sometimes a lot of full-time effort. I'd also like to just underscore the importance of setting up these committees and getting it done. 4 of you who are currently town council members have been mayor at one point. You can set up these subcommittees. As chair of the Parks, Open Space, and Trails Commission, I did that and set up committees so we could move the parks forward in an expeditious way so that you could have something to vote on and to help meet the needs of our community. I was thankful that Commissioner Nick Farr stated that, yeah, we should have a committee on a subcommittee on budget. And when he said that, I was like, wait a minute, isn't there when you mentioned that? And I'm glad that Mayor Wellner, you mentioned like, oh yeah, we were supposed to have that. I don't know if that was the right response, Mayor Wellner, but it's somewhat sad that it's not a priority for us on our budgeting to take care of these items and for us to own this and drive it in the right direction. That's what we do we take our job seriously on your commissions. It would be nice if your actions met that same level of threshold of seriousness that your constituents would like you to take. Thank you for your consideration this evening.
Thank you. Other comments?
Nothing further online.
Okay, so we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the council. Do I have a motion to take an action on the budget?
I'd move that we pass the budget as presented.
I second it.
Roll call, please.
Before we take a roll call, there's 8 separate actions, all engulfed in consent item number 2. Was the motion meant to address all 8 items in one motion?
Hold, please. Sorry, yes, it was.
Ready? Councilmember Fredericks,
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan,
Yes.
Councilmember Thier.
I'm going to vote yes on the budget, but I want the next council meeting to have a review of all of the issues that I raised and the other council members. I'd like to see that on the agenda. So I'll vote yes.
Vice Mayor Nick Farr,
Yes.
and Mayor Wellner.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Now we move to our next item.
Before we move to the next item,
Yeah.
we did raise some concerns. What is our action on those concerns? Because this feels soft, feels squishy.
Yeah, I'm not sure that we've agendized those actions for this meeting, but I think
I've
our
asked
comments
that
have
they-
been heard and we'll discuss them in our next meeting. Unfortunately, we don't have meetings in July, which is what it is. But when we return in August, we'll agendize a discussion on this.
Okay, so I would like it to be agendized for action, and the action items would be with respect to the financial statements and getting caught up on our audits.
I hear you.
I'd like to see an action item on that, and also getting actual numbers. So those are two things I'd like to see action items on, and having a budget that has even the unaudited numbers so that as we make more financial decisions, we at least have a baseline of where the money was spent in the last few years.
Other comments before we move on?
Yeah, I'm just a little confused. I thought there was already a plan, to complete, the audits. Is that our focus now?
Yeah, can you?
I'm asking the town.
I haven't seen a plan.
I'm asking the town manager.
We are working towards completing the audits. I actually had a meeting today with the accounting finance manager to see, as I think Councilmember Ryan said, what more resources could do to speed that up. And I'd be happy to report that back out at the next council meeting in August, if you'd like.
Please. Thank you.
Other comment? Okay. All right. So now we are going to our action items. We've had a request to move the public hearing on the sidewalk dining ordinance to the front of the action items. So we're gonna make that change and deal with that first. Can we have a staff report, please?
Mayor Wallner,
Yeah.
there are, moving the municipal code amendment to the front, completely understand that. There are also some items in here which, I think this is going to be potentially a long meeting. Would the council be open to continuing a few of these items so that we are able to shorten the meeting?
I think we should see how it goes, but I'm happy to do that if the meeting is starting to run late. Is there any particular item that you are proposing that we continue?
Appointments, building permit. Those two kind of jumped out.
So the building permit, I know that those individuals are here tonight for our deliberation. So I think we could move it, but I think that would be not the most considerate thing to do. I think the appointments, there's one appointment, and typically we like to do the appointments immediately after the interviews. And since we've done the 2 interviews tonight, I think it would make sense to cover those. I suppose, I don't know if I want to ask staff if it makes sense to move the pavement discussion, or is that timed?
That's very time sensitive.
Yeah, that's very time sensitive.
In terms of awarding the contract and getting the work done while school is out.
So the appointments could be moved. That's something that could be moved.
The appointments can be moved, but I think it would save little time and be very useful, but
And just on the building permit item, I would note that that's time sensitive, as well as the building permit in question is expiring, I believe, in the very beginning of July. So.
Yeah, I suggest that we try to go through a couple items and see where we are in terms of timing. And if we're running out of time, we can make adjustments. Sounds acceptable?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move to the public hearing. Can I have a staff report, please?
Yes. Good evening, Mayor Wellner and council members. I am Sherry Meads, the Community Development Director, and tonight we will be talking about formalizing sidewalk dining in the public right-of-way. So the project is to amend the municipal code to establish standards and a permitting framework for sidewalk dining. This statement is from the general plan. Basically, sidewalk dining is encouraged as a way to stimulate downtown. The proposed ordinance would allow sidewalk dining in the Main Street and mixed-use zoning districts with a sidewalk dining permit. And then we're also amending a different part of the municipal code to have the sidewalk dining be the only permit required. So on June 3rd, back in the COVID days, 2020, the council adopted a resolution allowing the town manager to authorize what were called temporary COVID-19 outdoor activities and encroachment agreements. From now on, I'm just going to call them outdoor activities agreements. And this was to encourage socially distanced dining when we were back in the stay home and stay away phase. So through this process, 6 outdoor activities agreements were authorized, as you can see by the chart up above who they were. There was a provision in the resolution that authorized these activities agreements that they would cease at the time of the COVID-19 state of emergency. They were extended several times and they have since lapsed. So I'm not going to go through all of the information on these slides in the interest of time. Everything is in the staff report. Basically, the approval process goes through the community development department. The director or their designee would serve as the approval authority. And again, as I mentioned, this one permit would be in lieu of site plan and architectural review, a conditional use permit, an encroachment permit, and a building permit, each of which those would have associated fees with them. So the permits would last for 12 months with an annual renewal possible with a reinspection and fee for that reinspection, which is currently $180. Permit would be strictly for the approved permittee, could not be transferred. And again, just like the outdoors agreements, it does not constitute a deed or grant of easement. The regulations, again, I'm not going to go through all of these. I will say something that did come up was that the indemnification and liability insurance questions, again, it's identical to what was already in place with the outdoor activities agreements. And we are considering allowing shared use by neighboring businesses on a case-by-case basis. So that would just be something that we would look at. There are some obvious, please don't have water misters. We don't want people tripping. We can't have outdoor cooking. Something important is though that we are not requiring additional parking for the additional square footage that is permitted in a sidewalk dining area. Again, some just basic things, keep it clean, please. If some of the language here is taken basically, not verbatim, obviously, but it's been modified from our encroachment permit language that if there is scheduled sidewalk maintenance or repairs, we will notify businesses to please move your equipment so that we can perform those scheduled duties. We also will encourage folks that have sidewalk dining areas to take advantage of our town-sponsored sidewalk cleaning activities, but that's not a mandatory thing. Again, some safety issues here and accessibility. I can't drive this home enough. One of the main things that we're considering with this ordinance and the impetus behind it is to make sure that these wonderful outdoor seating arrangements are safe for everyone. We have already had, since 2024, someone notifying us and copying the Department of Justice that we are not in compliance with certain ADA requirements. So that's one of the reasons behind this permit too, is to have a plan for how these areas can be safe for everyone. Enforcement, this is basically taken from the original outdoor agreement arrangement with some encroachment permit language thrown in. Basically what we're saying is that the town has the right, again, the encroachment permits say this, it's not anything that is made up specifically for this. The language is not exactly in parallel, but essentially the same thing that is part of the encroachment permit general conditions, which allow the town engineer, in this case, to revoke encroachment permits at any time with or without cause. And additionally, the language is similar to the processing of memorandum of encroachment, where conditions can be tailored to each project. So that was the only idea behind that. And those are typically approved by the engineering manager with legal counsel looking at them, and they do not require town council review. They're staff level. So the ordinance includes a transition period, recognizing that, you know, these folks have been operating for 6 years. And hopefully the application process, we have to set a deadline of some sort. I worked with legal and they suggested 30 days. and that we would allow them to continue up to 90 days after the effective date of the ordinance. And then failure to obtain a permit within 90 days is subject to enforcement or closure. Again, this talks about if there need to be interim conditions to address safety, accessibility, or right-of-way concerns, and if the operation is an unreasonable public safety risk, then immediate discontinuation could be allowed. And then this whole section, the transition period, will sunset after a year, because by then everybody's going to have a valid permit, or they would have to cease operation. So this part of the project was evaluated for CEQA, and it qualified for several CEQA guidelines exemptions related to the fact that these are basically existing facilities, very minimal physical improvements, and that sidewalk dining is consistent with the town's general plan, as I noted in the earlier slide. So now we're going to talk about how do we fund the sidewalk dining program. So in addition to an ordinance to adopt the sidewalk dining program, you have in your packet a resolution to amend the fee schedule, adding a new application and annual renewal fee for sidewalk dining in the public right-of-way. And the fees are not intended to be a burden. They're simply to advance a cost recovery approach by having the participating businesses contribute toward program administration, reducing reliance on the general fund. We just talked about all the exciting things we want to be able to do. And so this could be, based on council decision, a step in that direction. And the proposed fee, what you see in the table, this would be a one-time original permit application fee. And it was not just picked randomly. We talked with different staff members and attempted to determine how long we anticipate working on these permits. Obviously, each are going to be different, so we went extremely conservative. And you can see the basis for the fees basically in the middle. One thing to note is that a lot of it is based on staff hourly rates, and so as those adjust, this table would adjust. However, I want to really stress to the council that this is very minimal and is not going to be completely a cost recovery system. There, with ADA compliance and other things like that, we're anticipating multiple discussions with our certified access specialist on staff to help work with them. We do encourage individual operators to hire their own, because the town can't take responsibility for that. We can help direct and that type of thing. But as you can see, the total amount for one time would be $765. And then the annual renewal fee would be simply the same thing, basically, as a encroachment permit fee at, as you can see, $180, subject to town rate updates, as mentioned. There were additional fees that were added to the staff report. I did not include them on slides. They're not included in the ordinance at this time, but staff does recommend consideration of what many other jurisdictions do, which is to charge a license agreement or a lease agreement or a rental, if you will, for using that square footage of public right-of-way, of town assets, if you will. So the fiscal impact, basically, if fees are not adopted, there's no cost recovery for the time that staff will spend processing applications, interdepartmental coordination, because this will be engineering and building heavy, with planning basically doing the final checkoff, that type of thing, and then obviously inspections. This means that the general fund would fully subsidize the program rather than users who most directly benefit from sidewalk dining. And then obviously the missed opportunity cost, where general fund resources used to subsidize the sidewalk dining would no longer be available for other town priorities or services like a community center or parks or traffic or streets. And again, the only reason for the fees is it's a partial cost recovery to help offset program implementation and reduce reliance on limited general fund resources. So this part of the equation. The adoption of a fee resolution is not a secret project. It's a fiscal administrative action. And it is exempt if somebody were to say, yes, it is. It is a common sense exemption, which means that adoption of the fees will not result in an environmental impact. I tried to keep it brief. Most of the details are in the ordinance and the staff report, and I figure most of this is going to end up as a discussion. This is not a new item. You all have been discussing this for quite a long time. Planning Commission already acted on it and approved what part of the ordinance adoption they can approve, which is strictly within the zoning code. But they also recommended, not that it was just their own discussion, to also recommend approval of the ordinance amendments to chapter 19, which basically again says you don't have to have an encroachment permit if you get your sidewalk dining permit. So staff is here for questions. We have wonderful building official Doug Haight here who can also answer questions if you have any. And then I would ask at the end of the discussion, there be a separate motion on the ordinance. And then once that's squared away, then we would need to move on the fee resolution.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Do we have questions for staff?
Yes, just to verify, the staff did look at the how other jurisdictions handle use of their sidewalks. And if I understood it, some of them actually charge for the use of public space for private businesses. And we have opted not to in order to support our businesses. Is that right?
If I may, that was the direction that council provided from an earlier iteration of the ordinance that came before you. That does not mean that tonight council could, select to do something like that. I did include a comparison of what other jurisdictions are doing. And I think from that, it's quite clear that even with a $765 permit, there is more money if we chose to rent out the spaces that they are using to extend the square footage of their restaurants.
Well, actually, Sherry, I was just trying to focus on the council's support for our businesses.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and I would just add that that was also the view of the subcommittee that met, was to include fees based on cost recovery for absolute specific work of staff, but not to include any additional rent or anything like that. Good work.
So I have a question. Do we know the sales tax benefit to the town of the sidewalk dining versus not having the sidewalk dining? And I ask that because maybe back of the napkin, if we have 8 or 10 restaurants that have sidewalk dining, year one, $6,400 to $8,000 in revenue to the town from year one permits based off of the numbers we put down, and then maybe another $1,600 to $2,000 each year after that in town revenue. Versus what is the current, maybe the current sales tax benefit of those areas?
We don't have that data. It would be difficult. It would be difficult to calculate that. Individual sales tax data on businesses is considered confidential information from the state. We have access to data like that, but we would not know what percentage was attributed to outdoor dining as opposed to indoor dining. And in the absence of outdoor dining, would the restaurant simply lose all that business, or would some of that business go inside? It's impossible really to calculate.
I think the question is that we need to answer is if the businesses decide that $800 is too much, or is $800, are they going to make 30 times that amount by having the outdoor dining? Is that the opportunity? But it sounds like we're basing it more off of staff's time versus what is the return on that sidewalk dining fee that we would charge.
Right. As Director Meads indicated, the proposed fee is based on cost recovery of staff time. If council were to consider an additional fee, the rental of the square footage of the sidewalk, like some other jurisdictions have, I think that would be more what you were talking about. The fee as proposed is simply cost recovery or partial cost recovery.
Director Meads, thank you so much for that report. It was really comprehensive and great. So thank you so much. And I know that you've inherited this as a new director. So thank you for all your work jumping into something that has already been going on for a long time. The question that I had was, there was a slide you had up that discussed discussed how existing businesses who already have outdoor dining would apply for the permit. And my question is, it said they would have 30 days after we finally adopt an ordinance to apply for a permit. But then it said they would only have 90 days to actually get that permit. And my question is, what happens if, staff needs more time or there's a disagreement? Are we saying that we would actually just shut down their outdoor dining? And then they would just not be able to do it if there's not agreement within 90 days? I wasn't sure how to read that.
Yeah,
slide.
that
It
language
was
could
that one.
probably be tightened up a bit. Is this the one?
It's the next one you just had up.
Oh, so I need to go the other
It's
way.
okay. Yeah,
Here we
it's
go.
this one.
So the idea here was that please get an application in within 30 days. The idea here is if something doesn't come in by 90 days, that becomes a bit of an issue. But as you can see, the transition period expires 1 year after the effective date. So that means that there could be back and forth. We're not anticipating it taking that long. Good Lord, I hope it doesn't. I hope we can get these across really quickly. That's the goal. But, the council absolutely can change those dates if it's, if you would like to. This is just, I worked with legal on it and they felt that this was reasonable. I think it's reasonable, but I also defer to the council to make any
Okay,
changes you would like.
But it says failure to obtain a permit within 90 days is subject to enforcement or closure. And I don't know if that's the actual language. Maybe Ben, you can answer in the actual ordinance. My only concern would be that, let's say, God forbid, something happened to someone in the department and the town could not issue a permit within 90 days for some reason. Would we really be closing down someone's outdoor dining? But I think we have to say exactly in the ordinance in the resolution, what we mean to say.
Well, so the slide is trying to summarize the code. The
Right.
code section is 19B6A. And it says they need to apply have a complete application on file within 90 days. And if they don't, that's when we'll start moving forward.
Okay, great. That's what I thought it was. That's fantastic. Thank you.
Other questions?
Yeah, thanks. So you mentioned in the presentation, which thank you for that. And it's also in the draft resolution fee exhibit, how you say the hourly rates are derived from the fee schedule adopted April 2nd, 2025, attached, but they're subject to adjustment based on updates to our town hourly staff rates. Is that a mechanism in the ordinance where the cost to the business will change as we update our hourly rates? Or are these the rates and we have the option to update them as our rates change?
That could be council discretion. I recommend increasing it to try to, again, partial cost recovery. As staff rates go up, the ratio of cost recovery would go down if we left things where they are. But again, that's council discretion.
Thank you.
So now I have a follow-up question on Jack's question. So right now, as written, the staff could just raise the fees if rates go up. If someone gets a CPI increase, for instance, like a yearly salary increase, would the rates automatically go up?
It's based on what the council adopts per resolution, in terms of what the hourly rates are.
It's council fees.
Yeah.
Okay.
Staff couldn't just say, hey, I got a raise, so I'm gonna bump this up for planning. That type of
Okay,
thing. It's
it
all
would come
based on
back to the town
council.
council.
Well, if you want to write that in, it could. I was assuming that it would just be updated based on the updates that you would have already approved based on that.
It's my understanding that, and this is a question, it's my understanding that we haven't increased our fees in some time. Is that correct?
I think there's two different things we're talking about here. One is the fee schedule, but I believe the date you gave of 2025 was the last time the council approved
Hourly
a
rate.
new hourly rate reimbursement, which we use that for a number of things, grant reimbursements. So I think, and please, Ben or Sherry, correct me if I'm wrong. Councilmember Thier asked, it wouldn't automatically happen with, for instance, the budget just passed and staff's getting increases in their salaries. It would require council to adopt a new hourly rate reimbursement schedule before any change would happen. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Thank you. Other questions? No? Okay, so public comment?
Hi there, Andrew Thompson. Wasn't planning on talking about this, but I just want to say I support your move to do this. I support staff's work on clarifying this. I think it's simplifying, streamlining, making it clear. We don't want to have, those attorneys out there love to sue people over ADA issues. So it's going to clarify that. That's good. Also support you guys in not applying a rental fee for the public land, the license fee or whatever. This is not the Champs-Elysees, Chestnut Street or whatever. We suffer. Our economy is very weak Monday through Thursday. So that's good. I do have two little quick questions. Our restaurants actually do economically better. It's what really is hard is our clothing stores and our other stores there on Main Street and Arc Row. So what if like a clothing store wants to put out a rack of clothes or something? This is just for dining. Do we want to, I don't know. Let's say somebody wants to put out a rack of clothes or something else to show. Might be something to consider. I'm not proposing anything right now, just something to think about. The other thing is just a mechanical thing. So let's say Waypoint, Squalor Bean, or somebody, they're selling their business. This goes with the business. They're not going to have to reapply with a new business owner, right? That's correct. Okay, just curious.
If I may, it would not run with the land, it would run with the owner.
Yeah.
Because we would
So-
have to make sure that they followed the same. We would need to evaluate the proposal to make sure that they're not changing the sidewalk dining area or any of that, and to
But
keep it.
One person buys one of those establishments, then, and he's not changing anything. They don't need to reapply, correct?
So we're not supposed to answer questions, but they do need to reapply is what Director Meads just said.
Shouldn't it go with the
And
business?
the truly nuanced legal answer is if the ownership of the business changes, but the business is the same, then the permit remains in place. But if a new business buys the site, then they would have to apply for a new permit.
Okay, so actually you did answer my question. They're
Yeah.
buying the business. Okay, good. Just curious. Thanks.
Thank you, Andrew. Any other comments? Anyone online?
Yes, Robert Brown.
Can you hear me?
We can, thank you.
Good evening. Sorry I'm not there. Also, I'm sorry I'm not there live. This is Robert Brown. I'm the Chief Operating Officer and Senior VP of Real Estate for ANC Ventures. We are a Sonoma-based private real estate firm that in 2012, 14 years ago, sat down at Barbara Abrams' kitchen table, the daughter of Fred Zielinski, and promised her that we would take care of her father's vision and legacy as it pertains to the town of Tiburon. And I think we've done a pretty good job over the years. We own about a third of Tiburon, downtown Tiburon. And I can tell you that it hasn't been all roses. We've had a lot of struggles, obviously, with particularly the restaurants and obviously Cine Lounge, which we view as sort of community amenities. I think we all agree that nobody wants to drive to Marin to have dinner every time, and so I understand the purpose of this, but I would ask that we keep this as simple as possible. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me that we're creating an ordinance that's fee negative, basically, when I think the primary goals of the town should be to focus on the liability issues and the ADA compliance. So we submitted some proposed changes, some language to the ordinance that I hope council will look at. And again, I hope that we'll keep this as simple and as cost effective as we can for these restaurant operators. This is a very tough environment for them. You guys have probably all seen that Michael Mina decided to throw in the towel. We have a replacement operator for him that I think is going to do a great job and make that a great venue and hopefully much more approachable for the community and the local residents from a offering and price point standpoint. But again, this is a tough environment, and I hope that council will do the right thing here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Other comments online?
Nothing further online.
Okay. Comment in the room? Hi, please state your name.
Cheat sheet. I think I said last time I was here, I'm a nervous public speaker. Okay, well, good evening, Mayor, Council people. Thank you very much I'm Melanie Haddad with the Tiburon Peninsula Chamber of Commerce, and thank you very much for hearing us tonight. And thank you to the town for this ordinance, and thank you, Sherry, for all your hard work. The photographs were delightful. Okay, all right. Do you want me to start over? Good evening. I'm Melanie Haddad with the Tiburon Peninsula Chamber of Commerce, and thank you for giving us this opportunity to be heard tonight. I really just want to echo really what AC Ventures said in its letter yesterday and its proposed amendments to the ordinance today. I think that, the chamber, the business community were fully supportive of having the sidewalk dining program. I think we all agree that sidewalk dining is an asset. It makes downtown more vibrant. Visitors and residents enjoy it. All the businesses benefit from it. It increases foot traffic. It causes people to linger. There's just lots of good things about it. I think we all agree on that. It's consistent with the town's general plan. We've got these 6 businesses who have operated now since 2020 in compliance, as far as I know, safely. And I think we all agree that the plan should be formalized. The businesses support formalizing. So really, I think we just, AC's Ventures set the position out very clearly, provided 5 specific amendments. The amendments are designed to recognize the successful track records of the businesses, give them predictability in business planning. So our businesses, we aren't asking to be exempted from regulation. We're just asking for a regulation that's fair, predictable, and workable. So we respectfully ask you, the council, to adopt the amendments tonight. Thank you very much. I think it's more important actually to hear from the businesses now.
Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm
Hello.
Petra Higbee. I'm the founder and CEO of the Caviar Co. Down on Main Street. And I want to thank you all so much for your time and allowing us to be here today. I want to approach this conversation in a collaborative way, echoing a lot of what Melanie had to say of that we understand and are in support of something going in and these regulations. And also thank you for the considering a removal of the $10 per square foot, because I think that is quite significant and impactful on our small businesses. To kind of give some background on the sales tax question, I would say about 60% of our annual revenue comes from outdoor dining. And that is how we actually get people in from down the street. So people are all the way down in Fountain Plaza. They wouldn't, if there was no outdoor dining and we didn't have outdoor tables and umbrellas, I'm not sure they would know that we actually exist unless they parked in the Zelensky parking lot and happened to come across us. And so I hope that gets taken into consideration. And I know also from the presentation, I really appreciate the view that outdoor dining is an asset as opposed to a liability. I think as a business owner, I would be curious to know what outdoor dining has cost the town of Tiburon over the last 6 years and what essentially, I guess, what damage has been done and what problem there is to be solved. Again, regulations make a lot of sense and getting those things in place. However, I do think with the cost covered and taking the sales tax into consideration is valuable information before making these large decisions. And also on the 6 businesses that have been operating for the last 6 years, please take into account the investment that we have already put into that infrastructure to make it successful with furniture, dining chairs, ADA tables, and things like that. So I think those are all of my notes. Oh, and so with that, I ask for consideration to waive the initial application fee for the existing businesses. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Paul?
Hi, good evening. Good evening. Well, I will do my formal presentation earlier wasn't as was a question. So I'm Paulino Monterroso and I own Salt and Pepper in downtown. And thank you for being here tonight to take this in consideration. And thank you for the town for get these regulations. I know that it's necessary to do it, which one I support too. As me especially, we're a small business and we would like to just not to have all these fees in because like Echo to Petra, we have umbrellas outside. We have some scan advertising. People coming this way so they can see we there. The other way, we don't have a customers coming this way. And I support the AC Ventures amendments, the one that is writing early to the town or to the staff, council staff. I support them if you can take those in considerations. And so we can keep doing business outside. If no problem, we'll have to close those. I only have 2 tables, but I have to be closing. And that will be probably losing business because it's my advertising, probably free advertising, but we get revenues from that people coming through there. So, and we love do business in downtown. It's beautiful. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Paul. Other comments? Okay, so we'll close the public hearing and we'll come back to the council. I think what would be useful, and this is probably a little unusual, but we do have this specific letter from AC Ventures with proposed amendments. I think some of the amendments are options for the council to consider. Others, I do think require some clarification because I think there's one in particular I'm thinking of, which I think misunderstands what's in the ordinance. So what I'd like to ask staff to do is perhaps comment on each of the 5 or however many amendments there are, just to give us a clear understanding of staff's view of each of them, and then we can consider them as a council.
Certainly. First of all, I really appreciate getting feedback from community members. It really helps. I'll just go through each one. Number 1, where they're replacing this section, saying that we could only revoke a sidewalk dining permit for cause. Again, that is not what is included in typical encroachment permits. That language is basically, like I said, it doesn't mirror it exactly, but encroachment permits may also be revoked for cause or without cause. So basically use that language because, I mean, we never know what's going to happen. So it just kind of is a cover. Is that the town's idea? No, we wouldn't do this ordinance if that was our goal to remove them. We really love them and want to encourage them. And then the thing saying, except in case of immediate risk to public health or safety, they should be provided written notice and a minimum of 15 days to cure prior to revocation. In some cases, that's just not possible. Again, that language is not in encroachment permits. We would obviously work as partners with businesses. That's the goal. Again, partnership, but also ensuring that the town is in a position to do what it may need to do in terms of the right of way. It's not something personally that I have time for, or I don't think any other staff has time to say, hey, let's revoke that permit just for the heck of it. I mean, I wish I had that kind of time. I don't. I wouldn't do it anyways, but I'm just saying. So, I mean, I don't think that that's necessary. Again, these are all up to the council, but we considered carefully, worked with legal on what would protect the town in whatever case is necessary, considering it is town property. So again, that's.
I'll just add to that. So again, this is public right of way. So virtually every municipality who allows encroachments in the public right of way also has unilateral right to take it out without cause. Because you never know when you're going to need access to your public sidewalks for an emergency, public works project. So that's pretty common. Again, as it relates to existing code, our encroachment ordinance has it, this no cause provision. And so does the COVID agreements that we entered into with the owners at the beginning of these outdoor dining.
Right, so even during COVID, we had.
Even during COVID, we had the unilateral ability to revoke. So it's a pretty common provision for cities when you're talking about a public sidewalk.
Okay. Second one.
Yes, so thank you. Number 2 is renewal. And they're asking to revise the section 19B-3H. H is, it looks to me like what they are doing is removing the ability to charge a renewal fee. Is basically what I see as a difference there. And we encourage these to be renewed annually, but it is in the town's best interest to do that inspection. Again, encroachment permits have the same fee for an annual inspection. So that is not something we made up. It was something we were thoughtful about. And then again, renewal should not be denied except for cause. If the town council were to decide that this program needed to be eliminated, then that would be a reason that we would not renew. But you know, again, it's so difficult to foresee every single thing that could happen in the future. So this is just language that protects the town and is in line with other permits that we, and again, we have to remember this is the public right of way. So that's where that stuff comes from. Number 3, hey, I don't mind if I don't have anything to do with them, they all come to you. But this was to streamline things. If things have to go to council, they have to be agendized. It takes a staff
Can you
report.
summarize what 3 is so we can?
Yeah, number 3, limit staff authority, require council approval. They're proposing an entirely new section that says any new or increased permit fees, rental charges, security deposits, or other financial obligations, and any new substantive operational requirements shall require approval by the town council. And I'm pretty sure the only thing in the ordinance that is subject to the director only would be if there were specific conditions of approval that had to be applied to a particular sidewalk dining permit, depending on the orientation of the building or anything like that. And then again, as mentioned, that the hourly rates would adjust based on an action that the council would have already taken to increase the hourly reimbursement rates. And like any other ordinance, this isn't something that staff can just amend. No ordinance. You don't want me to have that power. I don't want that power. So that's number 3. Number 4, again, talks about conditions of approval. That's strictly a case-by-case basis. I would hate to have so many conditions of approval that aren't going to be applicable to every single operator. Some will, obviously, there's going to be some general conditions of approval, like any permit, like encroachment permits or anything like that, that have general conditions of approval everybody will have to meet, especially ADA or that type of thing. But for each specific project, there could be something else that needs to be done. So that's where that would be imposed by the director. And there are also memorandums of encroachment that go along with encroachment permits that apply specific project-specific conditions of approval. They don't go to town council. They're through the engineering manager. So it's not a stretch for the director to add conditions of approval to things. We do that for most land use entitlements. So that's where number 4 is. Number 5, I have no.
I was just gonna also add, there is an appeal mechanism in
Yes.
draft ordinance to the planning commission.
Yes,
So if the conditions are seen to be too onerous, they can appeal that to the planning commission.
that is correct.
Okay, so the current system is for site specific conditions, the director can add them and they can be appealed to the planning commission.
Yes.
All right.
And any, I think it says any enforcement action too.
And the fees would not be appealable if the fees changed.
Fees can only be changed by council.
And then the last one, the fee waiver for existing operators, I defer to the council entirely. There are 2 ways to look at it. They've been good shepherds of this, so yes. And then the other side says they've also benefited from 6 years of not having to pay. So that is totally up to the council how they would like to handle that, and I support either direction.
All right, thank you. That's very helpful. And I'm sure we'll have more specific questions about them in a moment. All right, so it's to the council for discussion. Who'd like to start?
I can throw in a couple of cents. And I'll just say, first of all, thank you to you, the subcommittee, for working on this so diligently, and thanks to the community for your input. I appreciate what you guys have come up with, and I'm looking forward to approving it. I would not be in favor of approving either of the first 4 amendments as proposed by AC Ventures. You never give up optionality, and all 4 of these has us giving up optionality. And that's not good policy for us. And I think that to the extent that businesses are worried that this places a burden on them psychologically in terms of their business planning, the fact that we didn't even consider, that we're not recommending a per square foot rental fee should be a very good and clear sign that we are looking to support them. So I don't really see, I can see why they want these amendments, but I am not in favor of those 4. And I probably would not amend number 5 either, but I'm curious to hear what my colleagues have to say if they want to convince me otherwise.
So point counterpoint. I would actually want to use these amendments that were proposed by AC Ventures. The reason is that I think they're trying to put certainty into this process for the businesses that have already been operating. I've heard from several businesses about the $765, and at least 2 of the 6 businesses have said that they will remove their outdoor dining tables because they can't afford to pay the $765. I think we've got 6 businesses that have been operating for 6 years now. Is it 6 years? And this outdoor dining ordinance, in my mind, was to make sure that we were covered through insurance and that we were covered in case there was any liability in that area. So I think that the first section, trying to, in the AC Ventures letter, the revocation, the replacing section 19B5D, the fact that it's not in a typical encroachment permit doesn't mean that it's not something we should adopt. And having some type of reason for revocation and saying you cannot operate anymore, I think gives the businesses some certainty. And I don't think our director now will do anything weird. But I do think that ordinances are written for the future. They're written so that any person in any position, everybody knows what the rules are, and everybody knows that, okay, I just spent $5,000 to fix up my tables outside and put these beautiful, monogrammed umbrellas that cost me $10,000. And I know that this permit isn't just going to be revoked because someone doesn't like the design. So, for me, this is a really, really important aspect of it. And the next item, revising section 19B 3H, I think this is getting at, perhaps this is getting at the $180 fee. Is that what you were saying, Director Leeds? So I think that that's, I would like to see language that, if a business can't afford, this fee, that they would not have to pay it. The other item on limiting future fees and program changes, this is number 3 on the AC Ventures letter. They're talking about any substantive operational requirements. They're not talking about, things that would have to be done anyway. And I think that, that there would be something that really changes this ordinance would be done by the town council and would not be changed administratively or through permit conditions. And I do think some of the language in what I read wasn't clear enough as to how changes would be made, and that this would give the certainty to the businesses that it would be anything major would be changed by the council, that got to really the intent of the ordinance. Number 4, I see as similar, that, the conditions of approval, again, they're talking about imposing new financial obligations because our businesses are struggling. Then the second part, again, is substantive operational requirements unless authorized by the town council. So it's not minor things, it's something that really is big. I do think that we should implement the fee waiver. We have heard from multiple businesses. There's only 6 businesses. They've already been operating. And I see this as a very different situation because we're not creating a new ordinance that has never been here before. We have 6 businesses that have operated for 6 years, and to now charge them, $800 or $765 to say, oh yeah, you've been doing this for 6 years, you've been in compliance, and now we're going to charge you for us to tell you you're in compliance. I don't see that we should really be doing that. I think that, our staff has been out there multiple times already. I think that they have seen how they're operating. I think that if they hadn't been operating according to the rules, we would have already shut them down. While I do understand the idea of recouping staff costs, I think with respect to these 6 businesses, they have let us know that they just don't have the money. And I would hate to see, 2 out of 6, 1/3, stop having outdoor dining tables because they can't afford this fee. So those are my comments. I will make a motion to
Still have
approve
comments.
that outdoor dining ordinance with the AC Venture amendments 1 through 5.
So before we offer a substitute motion, can we ask staff questions?
Yeah, right now, you've made this motion? Or you're gonna make it after we're done talking? Okay. Okay.
All right, I thought I heard a motion. No, I wanted to ask staff, so is the ordinance as written something that allows the town to revoke permit on design issues?
Like encroachment permits, it simply says it can be revoked with or for or without cause. I mean, we don't say that in encroachment permits or design. That was purposefully left out having design requirements in the ordinance. That was a big discussion, I think the last time it came through. And so staff has removed any required design elements except for whatever would be required to be compliant with ADA. So
Safe, yeah.
yeah, so we're just trying to be consistent with what other permits for use of the public space by a private entity has in their permits.
And as such, it does not explicitly allow revocation on the basis of design of an umbrella unless it's something that interferes with safety.
It allows
ADA
revocation without
requirements.
cause. So it means that the town can do it. The town has the right to reclaim its property when it wants to, regardless of whether there's.
Well, I
cause or
was
not.
getting there. And then if we do something on the affordability, would that mean the business has to make their financials public? What would the standard be to revoke on the basis of affordability or to, right,
To waive fees.
to waive fees on the
So-
basis that the business can't afford it?
So I think
What would the standard be?
Can
What-
I answer, Alice, because I brought that up? That's only an alternative that I was saying if the fees were not waived. So it
so-
doesn't exist right.
But I'm asking staff, if we were to implement something like that, how would we determine the standard?
I think council would have to give staff direction on that.
And let me just chime in. We have two things before you, the ordinance and the resolution establishing the fees. If you were to do if you want to do a fee waiver program or come up with a hardship program, you give us the direction to do that. We wouldn't be adopting the resolution tonight with the actual fee.
Yeah.
We would adopt the ordinance, and the ordinance would have to have a second reading, have another 30 days to go into effect. And then we'd need to have that resolution prepared and adopted at that point.
Thank you.
I have some comments I'd like to make. So, I want to start off. I want to start off with a little bit of history of this ordinance, which I think most people sitting in this room are aware of, but I think it's important to clarify. I think we all agree, and it's dangerous to speak for the whole council, but I think we all agree. Chime in if you don't. I think we all agree that sidewalk dining is wonderful and essential and to be encouraged. And I think we all agree that this ordinance should be as simple and non-burdensome as possible. And I completely agree with the caller, the spokesperson online who is emphasizing from AC Ventures, who is emphasizing the simpler the better. This is supposed to be a simple permit process to enable the continuation and flourishing of sidewalk dining. That's the goal. And of course, the key reasons for having this, I think there are at least three I can think of. One is that it is the city's property, so there has to be some rules about allowing it to be used. There is potential liability, so we have to have insurance requirements. And I think something that we've emphasized in everything we do, this came up a lot in the parks process when we were talking about parks, is we want everything to be properly accessible. And so that's one of the reasons why we need rules in place to make sure that ADA is complied with. Those are the real reasons behind after many years of just kind of not having rules, putting something in place. And the idea is not to create anything that will interrupt what's there or make it more difficult. That said, I don't know how many of you were here when the ordinance first came, but the first version of the ordinance, I just like to tell the story, contained provisions that required either a wall or a fence to be built on the sidewalk, to separate it from the street. And it had a long list of requirements of all sorts. And the instruction of the council at that time was to strip as much of that away as possible and focus on these essential elements that I just described. And I think that's what we have here tonight. We have a very bare bones ordinance. The language that I think I agree with Councilmember Ryan that the first four items in the AC Ventures amendments, I understand why they would want them. I think their concerns are unfounded in the sense, not because I don't think that they're valid concerns, but I just think that it's kind of looking at a worst case scenario where if the director has the power to make conditions, there's a concern that there'll be unreasonable or crazy conditions. I just don't think that's the case here. I think what we have here is public land that is being used by restaurants. We want them to use it. We encourage them to use it. The town has to have the power to control its land. That doesn't mean it will be exercised in crazy or unreasonable ways. But just like any other encroachment permit, we need to have this language in there that makes clear that it's the town's land. And if the town needs it for some reason, it can have it. So my thought about it, and I've actually, we in the subcommittee, we met, we eliminated all of the rental fees. These are basically reimbursement fees. I think I've been convinced tonight to go even a little bit further in the direction that Councilmember Thier is advocating for. I think if you think about it, there are 6 restaurants that are using this program right now. A $760 starting fee for them amounts to a little bit over $4,000 for the town. I don't think it's necessarily worth doing. So I think that having a provision in there about, pre-existing, stores and restaurants with pre-existing facilities outside wouldn't have to pay this initial fee, but would have to pay the very low $180 renewal fee. I will say that I think the idea, just on its face, and I just feel compelled to say this, the idea that any restaurant would stop doing sidewalk dining, which we just heard represents up to 60% of their revenues in some cases, because of a $760 fee, is not actually real. But nonetheless, I do, and
There are 2 restaurants that have said publicly
I
that they will
understand
stop.
I understand what you're saying, and I
just-
understand
I
what
just
they're
want
saying.
you
I
to
just don't.
because-
I'm saying I find that kind of beggars belief. But my point is, I still think that because this has been going on for 6 years, I don't feel the need to require kind of an initiation fee because we're starting a new ordinance. But I also I don't view that as a realistic obstacle. I view it more of as a symbolic measure. But I would be willing to amend to amend the proposed ordinance to eliminate that initial fee. But otherwise, I think what we have is a very clean, simple ordinance that essentially does what the town needs to do in terms of reasserting control over its property and ensuring safety, while at the same time being extremely generous and encouraging of restaurants to have sidewalk dining. And I think we should support it with a limited amendment that waives the initial fee for restaurants with existing outdoor facilities. That's my view. Another comment?
Yeah, and a couple comments I wanted to bring up. I think the first, I'll sort of split them into 2 different groups. First one is I think, I appreciate how our town council members and staff have kind of grounded us in that this is town property. It's owned by the residents of Tiburon and the town of Tiburon that the businesses are extending onto. I think also a point that others haven't really spent a lot of time on is that some of the downtown businesses don't have the ability to extend onto sidewalk space. The sidewalk isn't big enough to be ADA accessible. That being said, I think my hope is that we do move forward with this. And also I'd like to, I think I'll also express a sentiment that my hope is that the businesses that do have this ability to extend onto the sidewalks are not penalized in terms of increased rent or anything else like that for the decision to formalize the outdoor dining. I think it is it's town land. So I don't think that is a benefit I hope that is not a benefit that landlords see as a way to increase rent at all for this, because it is extended by the town and it is revocable.
But now that you've mentioned it, I'm sure it will happen because of course.
Well, I mean,
it is a benefit that will
it
have-
is completely revocable. So it is not something that is automatically extended. So I don't think it's something that should be a reason to put pressure on our downtown businesses. And I hope that the landlords would also see that point of view. I think also, to be clear, I think this town council supports the downtown businesses, and we appreciate the folks that did come out tonight to help educate us and help us understand how meaningful this is to your businesses. And we want to support you and help you maximize the opportunity that's in front of you. We also appreciate that you heard our perspective, sort of coming from the town POV, and Director Meads, I think, summarized it really, really well. ADA compliance, safety, and liability, those are the things that we have to look out for. We also have to protect the town's finances. We have an incredible staff and we have to pay them, and there are parts of their job that we would like to be able to mitigate the costs on, and protect the town's finances. You've heard us talk about the budget, and there is also pressure because costs are going up across the board. So I appreciate that there's kind of this middle ground between the local businesses. There appears to be, maybe I might be misreading the room, but there appears to be at least some sort of middle ground between covering some of the town costs and and not kind of renting the sidewalk on a per square footage, but really just trying to mitigate some of the costs that we have in the town. And I appreciate you guys kind of seeing that POV. And also wanted to thank Director Meads for taking both the interests of the downtown businesses and also looking out for the town finances in your department in this process. And I thought it was an incredibly well thought out presentation, and really appreciate your coming out with that. That's all I got.
Other comments?
Yeah. I just have a question. Suppose one of the other business locations changed their use to a restaurant. Does the town have the ability to write this ordinance such that new restaurant businesses or new use of sidewalk could include the initiation fee of $750?
So what I understood the council to consider is only the existing businesses with facilities in the right of way as of the date of this resolution being adopted would be exempt from the fee. If that's the consensus of the council, then any new businesses would be obligated to pay that $765.
So as one of the council members pointed out, what the town is talking about is a total revenue to the town of about $4,500.
That's what the
Initiation.
initial 6 restaurants would be paying.
And for the businesses themselves, they feel this is an important savings.
That's what Councilmember Thier has asserted.
Oh, you want to know where I am?
No, only if you want to volunteer it. I think we're probably ready for a motion at this point, but
Okay.
sure.
So I just wanted to comment that I want to say how much we value our businesses. And I didn't get to say that earlier. And we want to thank you for doing business here. And I know it's hard sometimes and that there are struggles, but we really want to thank you. I also want to thank Director Meads for reaching out to people and for coming up with the cost recovery ideas. I think, if it was a different scenario and, I know you're trying to protect the town and look out for the finances, which is really, really important. And I want to thank you for that. I think that, our businesses are struggling here. And so that's what weighs in my judgment to waive those fees for the existing businesses. And I also want to say that, the businesses that spoke tonight and AC Ventures, it really made a difference, and I think really educated the council as to what's going on right now with the business. And I really want to invite you guys to come back anytime and tell us how things are going. And if there's anything as a town council that we can do to make things easier, please let us know.
Okay, is there a motion?
So I will make a motion. Was Alice going to say something or did you?
I thought you had made a motion and I was going to make a substitute motion.
Yeah.
It's up to
I'm
the
sorry.
mayor to
Oh.
reopen public comment if you'd want to do. Apparently, a member of the public would like to reopen public comment.
Okay, let's reopen public comment. Go ahead.
I heard us to say that any imposition of new fees, rental fees, security deposits or anything would have to come to town council. And I just wanted to clarify that was the case because I wasn't sure where in the ordinance that was.
It's not necessarily in the ordinance. It's the fees are based on the hourly fee rates that have been adopted by the
Isn't there
council.
something in there? I couldn't find it. I thought I read that somewhere it said that the director has the right to impose additional fees, rental fees, security deposits at their discretion. Or am I misreading that? I just want to make sure that we aren't going to turn around and we're going to be back here and say, what?
And add new
What?
fees tomorrow.
You know,
Yeah,
it would
could
be
our-
great if it could come.
Could our
in
town
front of town.
attorney respond to that? So, no.
Thank you.
If I understand the question, I mean, everything that is included that is within the authority of the planning director to impose is in the ordinance. There's a resolution also on your agenda tonight to impose 2 fees, the annual fee and the.
Right, she's just asking if the ordinance as written includes the power for the director to add fees.
No.
Okay.
That would have to be an amendment to the ordinance at a future date.
Okay, and it could not be done through an encroachment permit either, through the permit.
No.
Okay.
Fees are prescribed by Prop 26 by the Constitution, and they have to, go forward with the process you're having tonight on those 2 fees that are as part of the resolution.
I think what our attorney just said is that new fees would come back to the town council. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No. If you want to come up to the front and speak for a public comment, you can.
I don't mean to make this more complex, but just listening, I got an idea. Like I said before, when I brought up the point, you're just talking about restaurants. And we also have the dynamic of the west side of the street being wider than the area on the east side. So Sam's, Luna Blue, they can't do it on their sidewalk. So if you go beyond just thinking about restaurants, and you think, because to my knowledge, it's the clothing stores and other stores that have a much harder economic time than the restaurants. And so if you empower them to do something in their sidewalk, they can make a deal with Luna Blue or Sam's or whatever and utilize their sidewalk if they think it's an advantage. Maybe they do get an economic gain from that. The clothing stores have a much harder time than the restaurants. It's just an idea.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll close public hearing if there's no one else. And move to a motion, please.
Okay, so my original motion was to move for adoption of the ordinance with the AC Ventures 1 through 5 items in it as amended.
Okay, is there a second for that? Looks like
Okay,
not.
then my second motion is to move for adoption of the ordinance with item 5 from the AC Ventures letter in it, that is the fee waiver for existing operators.
And we're not adopting the ordinance tonight, so I think the
Okay.
town clerk will read the applicable language of how you introduce an ordinance.
Perfect.
I'm going to read what I think your motion is.
Please do.
To introduce the ordinance as amended, read by title only, as follows. An ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Tiburon, amending Title 4 zoning of the Tiburon Municipal Code.
Let me just be clear about something. The ordinance doesn't need to be amended. That 5th item, that's the resolution that's coming next.
Okay, but doesn't the ordinance refer to the resolution?
It does, but the
But it
resolution is
doesn't
what's
have
going
the
to be.
fees in.
Correct.
Okay, perfect.
I'm going to start again. To introduce the ordinance as written, read by title only as follows. An ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Tiburon amending Title 4 zoning of the Tiburon Municipal Code by amending Section 16-23.020 allowable land uses and permit requirements and 16-32.040 number of parking spaces required, and amending Title 5 Public Works by amending Section 19-A4 exemptions and existing agreements, and adding Chapter 19B sidewalk dining to establish a sidewalk dining program, to waive further readings, and to schedule for adoption at the next regular meeting of the council.
Okay, is there a second? Do we need a second for that?
So a clarification, the whole fee structure is in the adoption of, is in the approval of the resolution establishing the fee.
That will do.
And this is about the ordinance
Right.
creating sidewalk dining. And that's what the motion is about, and I will second it.
All right, can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Fredericks.
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
Councilmember Thier.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nick Farr.
Yes.
And Mayor Wellner.
Yes.
Now I will move that we adopt. You want to do it?
No, I don't want to do it, but I want to make sure
Adopt
you
the
understand the
resolution?
nuance. I want to make sure you understand a nuance of
Thank you.
what AC Ventures is suggesting versus what I think the council's suggestion is.
Okay.
AC Ventures number 5 is just having a fee waiver to those who had an operation lawful under resolution 218, 18-2020, which was our COVID outdoor program.
Okay.
It's my understanding the existing 6, not all 6 were the ones, not everyone had a COVID permit at that
Right, so
time.
we want to do all 6.
So I don't think if
Okay.
you want to do all 6, you would not use AC Ventures amendment language.
Okay.
I can be happy to tell you what I've scribbled in my notes to
Yes,
get you.
give us your scribbles.
Under the resolution adopting the fee, the initial one-time sidewalk dining permit application and processing fee, you'd have that title and say, comma, except for restaurants with existing outdoor facilities as of the date of this resolution.
Okay, so moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Councilmember Fredericks.
No.
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
Councilmember Thier.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nick Farr.
Yes.
And Mayor Wellner.
Yes. Okay, so thanks to everyone who came out and helped us improve the ordinance. And thanks to staff for their hard work in creating what I think is a very straightforward and encouraging ordinance for sidewalk dining. Thank you.
And coming in at the 11th hour.
All right. So now, unfortunately, Councilman Nick Farr's prediction that would take a while was correct, but we will try and make up time. So we now go to action item number 1, appointment to town boards and commissions. We have.
I would like to move that we continue this to the next meeting.
Second.
It's not a huge time
Is
saver.
there any discussion or should we just go to a vote?
Public comment, and Councilmember Fredericks, I'd remind you that you're going to abstain from this item as well.
Do I have to abstain from
Yes.
delaying?
Okay, any public comment on the motion to continue action item 1?
Crystal Duran, Library Director. I just want to provide informational context for the potential postponement of the item.
Yes.
The Library Agency Board will be dark in July, and so the next business meeting will be August. So if your decision is delayed until your August council meeting, it'll have minimal impact on business operations of the Library Agency at this time. So just to provide that additional information.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments before we vote?
I just think this is the quickest item. I don't know why we're postponing it.
Okay, I agree. Let's have a roll call. No. Sorry.
Councilmember Ryan,
No.
Councilmember Thier,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nick Farr,
Yes.
Mayor Wellner.
No.
Okay.
So it doesn't pass,
can
which means we
Do we
continue.
round up or round down?
Motion didn't pass, therefore the items before you still.
All right, so is there any discussion on appointing someone to the library board, or is there a motion that I can entertain?
I think the reason why I thought it should be postponed is actually because there was a public letter that came to us. I think it was from Parker Pringle that said that the library JPA had wanted the announcement to be in April. And that there wasn't sufficient time for people to apply. So that was the only reason why I voted yes to postpone the item, because we did hear from a member of the public that, you know, there possibly should have been more time for the application to be outstanding.
Yeah, I mean, I think my view is that we have to find candidates, so I think there was sufficient time and we should act on it.
You need to take public comment probably, right?
Is there any public comment? Okay, no public comment. Is there a motion I can entertain?
Well, just in terms of discussion, I think Alice Fredericks is a great candidate. And I would move that we appoint Alice Fredericks to the library board. And with all, and I appreciate Laura Fermata coming out. I think she's great, and I hope she replies. Oh, and I would like to move that we appoint Jane Gould to the Commission on Aging as well. I think it was a two appointments, right?
You're doing them together?
I don't hear any other discussion, so yes, I am both together.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All right. Vote.
Councilmember Ryan,
Yes.
Councilmember Thier,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nick Farr,
Yes.
and Mayor Wellner.
Yes.
Thank you.
That did go quick.
Congratulations, Alice.
Thank you. Next, we move to the Bel Air play area item. Can I have a staff report, please? I think it's great because it adds about 10 minutes each time. Oh, all right. I've just had a request for a 5-minute break, so we'll take a 5-minute break. We are back in session. Moving to action item 2, Bel Air Play Area. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Mayor, council members, members of the public here and online. This evening, Carlisle Macy will present the final design for the Bel Air Play Area, highlighting the proposed park improvements, key design features, and the community engagement process to help shape this project. Presentation will summarize how input was received from residents, stakeholders, and the Post Commission and Town Council was incorporated into the final design, and will provide an overview of the proposed improvements, estimated construction cost, and implementation consideration. At the May 19th, 2026 Post Commission meeting, the Post Commission reviewed the final design and recommended that Town Council approve the design and authorize staff to proceed with advertising the project for construction bids. So tonight, I just want to let Town Council know that approval of the final design and authorization to advertise the bid does not authorize construction. So tonight, all you're authorizing is just you're approving the design and allowing us to advertise. At a future Town Council meeting, an action will be required to award the construction contract and approve construction funding. This evening, we have representatives from Carlisle Macy here that will provide a presentation here for Town Council consideration.
Hello. Good evening. My name is Brianna Morrison. I'm Associate Principal and Landscape Architect at Carlisle Macy. I'm joined here with Pauline Cruz, Landscape Designer for Bel Air Play Area, and Sabrina Swanson Schneckloth, Landscape Designer and Arborist at Carlisle Macy. We are pleased to offer a design to you today that we think strikes a balance between the various stakeholder feedback and direction we've received while working on this project for the past several months. I want to just quickly review the process that it took to get here, and then we'll go over what we're considering the 90% permit set that we hope you'll approve to put out to bid. So just very quickly, the existing site is a large open field that is surrounded by residential backyards. This is a photograph from not long after the existing storm drain system was replaced through the park. And you can see that it contains some resident-provided amenities, some amenities from the town, and then it's generally just a large open space. This is the original concept that we took to the Post Commission in February and presented to the public for feedback via the meeting and also via a public survey. When we received feedback from the survey, we asked people to rank the amenities within the park, planting areas with low maintenance native vegetation, water efficient lawn, shade and accent tree planting. So a lot of planting related items were very highly favored. And then multiple picnic areas, seating areas, and an accessible looped walking path were also highly favored. The feedback that we did get from the Post Commission and the public was to only have one picnic area, reduce the number of benches, maintain the planting area along the fences, but consider maybe making it smaller in order to make the lawn larger and to provide a drinking fountain. So we incorporated that feedback into this revised concept, which we presented to you in March. We received direction from Town Council to be considerate of costs as we further developed the plans. And so as we developed the construction drawings, we were trying to be cognizant of the cost. So what we ended up taking to the Post Commission last month was this 60% design set. I'm sorry, at this point, the color goes away, so it's not as exciting. But I'm going to walk you through the 60% design, and then I'll show you how we've modified it for today. So the design includes some landscape boulder retaining walls at the entrance off of Karen Way, just because it's rather steep. And in order to make it accessible, we have to keep the pathways under 5% slope. And so we have to kind of hold up the neighbors' yards a little bit in order to ease into the project. So that's why there are these small retaining walls under 2 feet in height. We've got the looped pathway. It's at 60% is a 6-foot wide natural surface path, about a tenth of a mile loop. You've got the accessible entrances from Karen and Claire. And you can see here in the original concept, we had a 15-foot buffer, but we went out and visited the site and we put some flags to see what it would look like if we shrunk that down to a 10-foot buffer. And we agreed that that buffer would be enough to provide some distance from a neighbor's backyards while expanding the recreational lawn. Site furnishings, we have one accessible picnic table here on the Karen Way side, kind of where an existing neighbor provided table and chairs are. We have one bench with accessible companion seating, and then one bench that's just sort of sitting in the landscape. We also are salvaging 2 pet waste dispensers that are existing on the site, so we'll reinstall those. And then we're providing a bi-level drinking fountain with a pet bowl, and then, of course, trash receptacles. For planting, we have a mixed native perennial grass perimeter with accent trees and shade trees kind of dotted around, and a large recreational lawn. This price came in at about $688,000. That included contingency, contractor fees, and cost escalation. When we presented this to the Post Commission, they asked us to try and take about 20%, reduce the price by about 20%, or get it closer to about $500,000. So we went through a value engineering exercise internally, and then we presented options to the Post subcommittee members. Some of the VE options we came up with was removing and salvaging those neighbor-provided amenities. We're removing that from the contractor's duties and having the town coordinate that. The retaining wall that was going to be made of boulders at the entrance from Karen Way, our cost estimator advised to move to a more modular retaining wall with like concrete blocks. It's more, the cost is, can be, it's and more of a known cost because boulders can vary in price. So we moved to this modular retaining wall. We had the accessible picnic table and bench on concrete pads because we knew that the feedback was that people preferred a natural surface for the pathway, but natural surfaces can, depending on the material, require a lot of maintenance to remain accessible. So in order to keep the 2 site furnishings accessible with very little maintenance, we had proposed them being on concrete pads. But as for the VE exercise, we've changed that to be the same surface as the pathway. And to address that maintenance and ADA concern, we're going forward with a material called porous pave. We did bring a sample of that here. If anyone's interested, that was a request by the Post Commission. So we can provide that to you after the presentation. It's a material that is a blend of recycled rubber and aggregate, and it's entirely permeable. So if you were to pour your water bottle on that, the water would just go right through it. One of the other, while we're on the topic of this pathway material, one of the directions from the Post Commission was to be considerate of kids who want to ride their bikes so that the material could stand up to bicycle tires. It also needs to be able to allow the town's maintenance staff to get into the property and mow the lawn on their mower, which we learned has, I believe, a 6-foot wide deck. And then also we want it to still look natural. So this is a good option that kind of meets all those requirements. We also reduced the trees from 24-inch box trees to 15-gallon. There's a pretty significant savings with that. We did have a mix of 5-gallon and 1-gallon shrubs, but we've reduced the 5-gallon shrubs to 1 gallon. And then there was a significant amount of markups associated with the project, just because, you never really know what costs are going to look like by the time this goes to bid. But because we are closer to it going out to bid, the design is much more known. We were able to reduce the markups from 31% to about 25%, which I think is still very reasonable. So this is the current site design, and I will just walk through a couple of those VE items so you can see them on plan. Generally, when you look at this, it doesn't look that much different than the 60% plan. But again, here's where we've asked that the town will coordinate removing these amenities or salvaging them for the neighbors to pick up. This is that move from the landscape boulder wall to a more modular concrete block. These are the 2 pads that I mentioned that we are changing from concrete to be a porous pave to match the pathway material. Again, these are the trees where we've reduced the size, the shrubs where we've reduced the initial size. So 1 gallon, that you have, this climate here is beautiful and things will just grow. So putting in a smaller plant at the beginning just means it'll take a little bit longer to get to full size, but I think that's reasonable for the cost savings. And then I don't think I had this on that list, but we reduced the path width from 6 feet to 4 feet for the main loop. So the area that's in that kind of faded red has now become a 4-foot loop, but we did maintain the 6-foot wide entrances from Karen and Claire Way again, so that you can get that maintenance access. And so that provided some savings as well. So we were able to take the price down by 88,000. So not quite what the Post Commission was hoping for, but we believe that this is at least on a rough order of magnitude, the best savings that we could find without drastically changing the intent of the design and the feel that the public has come to expect. So this is just to show you a comparison. And if you look at our cost estimate document, I did my best to kind of group things into these categories and to show you kind of where the savings was coming from, but I may not have gotten it totally perfect, but the total is correct. So site furnishings, there was no change. There's some savings. The reason that there's not a larger savings here in the grading and paving is because some of the like percent markups that were in this contingency were sort of contractor initial mobilization fees that we worked into this grading and paving item. So they just kind of got shifted from the end to the middle. So that number doesn't look as big, even though we did get significant savings with the path width reduction. You can see the largest reduction was in the planting and irrigation, just because the cost of plants and the smaller they are, the cheaper they are. So we got a significant savings there. And then there was a little bit of savings in the utility section, I think just related to some of the we reduced some sizes of things. I think we reworked the culvert, removed the retaining wall that was there, and so that's where some of that savings is coming from. So again, it's a savings of about 88,000, and that still includes about a 4% contingency, which is about $24,000. Just a little bit of flex there because we really don't know how contractor fees will turn out. And then just to give a quick update on the project timeline, we're here at the town council meeting. The goal is to go out to bid hopefully in July, and then construction could start as early as September and be completed before the end of the year, ideally. And with that, I'll open it up to you guys for questions.
Great, thank you very much. Questions?
Yeah, would it be possible when we put this out for bid to test some of the scenario, or is it is it recommended to do that to maybe put out for bid costs differences for 4-foot versus 6-foot and paver versus concrete as a part of that process, just to see what the cost difference looks like? Because it looked like we switched from concrete to pavers and there was only an $8,000 difference in terms of cost savings by reducing the width of the path, and by switching from concrete to pavers. $8,000 seems like a really small savings.
We can go in with like bid alternatives and see what the contractor would what they would bid for each of those items.
I'm going to go back to this one here. So one thing that I mentioned was this general amount, 63,000. That in the previous cost estimate was considered an indirect cost and was, a 12% on top of the overall project. So we were asked to incorporate all those fees into the overall line items. And so there is a cost for the contractor just to mobilize and get on the site to do stormwater prevention setup, to do traffic control. And so that number is that 63,000. So you can see here the paving cost is at 143. If I go back to here, you can see the paving cost was 210. So the overall bucket that I'm calling grading and paving isn't showing as much of a savings because of that. Because down here, that's where the mobilization and traffic control and everything was being considered an indirect fee. So there is a $50,000 savings in the pathway reduction, which you don't really see when you're just looking at the overall bucket. And that's, again, because I needed to move some of the fees that were being added at the back end into this category. So I apologize, it's a little bit confusing, but I still think we can do bid alternates as well.
But we will be able to do bid alternates, and when we go out to bid, the bid tab will be broken down, so there won't be a lump sum for combining 2 or 3 items. Like paving will be its own item, mobilization its own item, traffic control, just like standard paving projects.
I'm a little bit more confused now because it sounded like you said that the general fees were in the total. But the total is the addition of each of the 4 line items, isn't it? So it would be in one of the 4 line items.
Yes, so when we originally presented this to you, we did not at the previous town council meeting. I think I've made this more confusing than it needs to be. So let me try this again. When we originally presented the cost to you, we had the line items pulled from the cost estimate, and they're just the labor and materials. Then what the cost estimator did is they added the general contractor's fees as an indirect cost at the end. We were asked to blend all those costs, those markups into these line items. So I have done that, but I didn't break it out in this one to show the general fees, and I should have done that. This is where I said I probably did this imperfectly. But that this paving, this is a pretty good comparison of the paving cost compared to the 143. There is savings in reducing the paving width. That I think is more than $8,000. But it's harder to show it because the way these numbers are grouped is not as clear as the way we did it for the updated one. I don't think I made that any clearer, but
I was
Just wants to know where the $63,000.
yeah, I was trying to get to
Yeah.
kind of an apples to apples comparison, and it sounds like that's not possible with this current cost breakdown.
yeah, I think the paving number is, and this just general amount was blended into other items, in the 60%. But I can tell you there is a significant savings in reducing the path width. That's more than $8,000, but not, maybe it's not as big of a savings as we're getting from the planting and irrigation. If I go to this one, this is a much bigger savings here. Wonder if I can actually tell you. 1 second.
And while she's looking at that, I will just point out, these are estimates. And as David said, the bid documents themselves are much more granular in line items. So if there's a concern about one of the value engineering approaches, I don't think we want to add too many bid alternates, but I think putting bid alternates is a good idea. If there's a concern about reducing the width of the path from 6 to 4, whether we think it's 8 or 10 or 15 or 20 or 40 or 60, these are just estimates. So if there's an interest in seeing what that difference is, we'll bid it as a bid alternate, and we'll know what the difference is when the bid comes in. So.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I had a question about what came up at post. Aside from the items that you mentioned, was there any other comments on what should or should not be in the design?
No, at the post meeting that we had back in May, we had no attendance in here in the chambers, which was very surprising. I thought we would have a lot more. So it went very smoothly as you see it here.
It would be shocking if there was no one there and it didn't go smoothly.
I don't know.
And just to let town council know, we do have Chuck Hornbrook, who is our subcommittee member for the parks, here online. If you have any questions for post themselves, he'll be able to answer.
The plan was adopted by post.
Correct.
The meeting. Okay, that's what I thought.
Okay. Should we go to public comment? Any public comment, either in the room or online on this item?
Can recognize Jenna online.
Hi, this is Jenna. Can you hear me?
We can.
Oh, great. This is Jenna McKnight. I was at the post meeting in May. And we had people calling in as well. I think, well, there would be more people here tonight, except for school is just let out and everybody has gone off on vacation. So I myself just got back tonight and logged in. So I just wanted to say, I think this design is really simple. It's really appealing, and I feel it would be really beneficial for people of all ages. And I did ask this question before at a post meeting, and I'll ask it here, but I was wondering if the architect can present ideas for donor recognition elements, like adopting a bench or a tree or incorporating a donor plaque. I think community members would contribute to this project if there were some opportunities for donor recognition. So I'm just curious how we can get this integrated into the process. Thank you.
So before that gets answered, I just want to thank you for calling in despite all of the end of the year activity, and to say that is a great question. And so let's let's see if the consultant's been able to think through that through.
Thank you.
Yes, I do remember your comment, and I apologize that we didn't incorporate that into the presentation. But I do believe we have opportunities to do a variety of donor recognition things. We're moving to that modular retaining wall. You can add plaques to those. We can also incorporate landscape. We have some landscape boulders within the site. You can incorporate plaques into those. Plaques can be added to the benches, the two benches and the picnic table. There is opportunities to put concrete bands within the walking loop that could have a donor brick in there, and then we could use it to say mark a distance along the 10th of a mile loop. We could do every so many hundreds of feet or something. So there are a variety of options. I think the items that would not alter the design, that would just enhance what we've got there, would be things like adding to the benches, little plaques, adding to the modular wall, and maybe working that plaques into the landscape boulders that are already part of the project. But I think it would probably be a greater discussion just on how many donors are anticipated. There's only 2 benches and 1 picnic table, but you could have multiple plaques on a bench.
Yeah, and particularly if you have the ability to put them on the modular wall, you might have some rooms.
And another consideration is whether we would want to have plaques acknowledging donations from Chevron and other businesses that represent things that the community are very concerned about. Climate change. That's just an example. So you're just going to have open plaques. I know we've had this issue on before when we were considering putting benches along Old Rail Trail. And I'm not picking on Chevron. I just used it as a convenient example.
Yeah, so some thought needs to go into how we do that.
I have a comment. Are we at comments yet? Or where?
We're still on public comments.
Next is Matan.
Hi, everyone. My name is Matan. I'm a longtime resident of Bel Air. I support this plan. I hope that you all send it out for bid. There's been a lot of thought that's gone into it. I think it's a very reasonable plan. It will greatly improve the area for people of all ages. In particular, I know my kids are going to really enjoy this updated park. It seems to be very modest and hopefully something that is achievable even with our budget constraints. So thank you all for your consideration. I do hope you move this forward.
Thank you.
Seeing no further comments.
Okay, so we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council. Comments?
I have a comment. So I just want to say how excited I am that this is moving forward. I want to thank the consultants for the presentation and David. And also Jenna McKnight for being online, and Parents for Public Parks for helping to push this through, and Post also for getting this done. I think this will be the first one that goes out to bid. So it's very exciting after all of this talk and all of the work that's been done by the council to see it actually coming into fruition and a place where, residents and community members can really enjoy themselves. So I just wanted to say thank you.
And I would like to make a comment also on Post's contribution on Post really making this happen in the process by which they made it happen involving. I want to acknowledge that there is some community pushback. This little play area has a long history of certain kinds of use. When you look at the land use papers under which we acquired this area, this is referred to as a play area. And it was. Do I really have to start again?
It's up to you where you want to start. It's
Oh.
still off.
Now it's on. I was just thanking Post for a really conscientious community involvement process in coming up with all these plans, but especially this one, which was a little difficult for the surrounding community because of the history of what they considered a play area was. At one point, I actually looked into community documents, starting with Marin County, from who originally approved the use of this land, and it became a part of Tiburon later, to see what play area meant, because some people felt this meant no amenities at all could be added to this plot of land. My research indicated that that is not necessarily an interpretation. It refers to a minimal structural increase. And I think the structural increases that are proposed here really respect the use of the land historically and beautify it. And I want to thank everybody involved also.
No, my thanks, and I'm definitely going to support moving this forward.
Yeah, a couple comments. I think, this process is taking years to get to this stage. Starting with the Parks Master Plan Survey, and Post as well as town staff, and especially David, I think deserve a lot of credit. I think Post, again, I think we're really, really lucky. I think it's got to be the best commission in Marin that we have, along with our incredible town staff. This process has included both Tiburon residents as well as an incredible laser focus on gathering every single bit of feedback from the Bel Air neighborhood. I was a former resident of the Bel Air neighborhood. I understand. I've done Zoom meetings with this neighborhood going back 2 years about this area, learning from the neighborhood. The Post posted far more than I think any commission would ever do for this particular park. We ran a written survey just for the 189 homes in this area, because we got a lot of feedback that they didn't have time or didn't receive the digital survey that we sent out to that neighborhood. So everyone in the neighborhood has had an opportunity to contribute via digital survey, written survey that everyone received in the mail through the master planning process. We did many in-person meetings and community outreach. The Post also did neighborhood consensus meetings on site in that park that people showed up to and expressed themselves in person. So I think this has been an incredibly thorough process. I think, some of the things that are leading us to want to develop this is that it's a park that's not ADA accessible at all. Access to the park isn't ADA accessible. The use of the park currently is not ADA accessible. When we lived there, and even to this day, in some ways, it's a little bit of a dumping ground for old sports equipment. There's a lot of people who just sort of let their dogs, and even said in the meetings that they just kind of let dogs off leash in there, and they'll open their door and the dog will run to the park, do its thing, come back in, and it's not always cleaned up after. So I think this is a great opportunity for us to take what is an incredible resource for the neighborhood and for the town, and to develop it in a meaningful but conscientious, from a cost standpoint, way. And so much neighborhood feedback was brought into this that I feel very comfortable that this is a consensus-led and community-led process, and very excited about where we are with this. And I would advocate strongly for putting this out to bid now.
So I think we're ready for a motion.
Oh, I do want to, I have a comment. Yeah. No, I just want to say this is amazing. I'm very excited to see it go forward. We We, at the beginning of the year, talked about this being kind of the year of parks, traffic, and sustainability. This is the first park to go forward. Very excited, and it's a great design. As the vice mayor said, a lot of input over a lot of time, a lot of staff time, a lot of council time and public time. We really appreciate it all and are excited to put it out to bid. So I'm going to move.
Okay, you can move it. Go ahead.
Do I have specific language I need to use, or do I just merely move to put it out to bid? Okay, get a vote.
Councilmember Fredericks, Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
Councilmember Thier,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nick Barr,
Yes.
and Mayor Wellner.
Yes. Thank you all. Congratulations. Okay. I'm feeling very refreshed. It's very early in the evening. Let us. Well, I've been promised that closed session will be really fast.
I might move to continue that session.
Yeah.
Can we can ask, is there anything urgent in closed session that we can't continue?
Trying to remember it's closed session at this point. Yeah, it was.
There's no action items, just updates on
Talk about that
litigation.
publicly, but if I'm happy to have a quick closed session to let you know the timeliness of the closed session. We can decide at that closed session to continue it to a later date. There you have it.
Okay, so we have two more.
Well, I have been
Disagree.
told by staff that is time urgent, so I'm not sure if we can continue it or not. But it sounds like no. So our second to last item, for which the applicant has been waiting very patiently, and we appreciate it.
It worked out because my family went. So I have no family, just dogs.
I hope you didn't stay behind just for this.
I did, but that is.
Oh my God.
No. The freedom I had today, you don't know what a gift I got.
All right, so action item number 3 is this building permit fee. Can I have a staff report, please?
Good evening again, Mayor Wellner and council members. Glad you're all still here. So as you mentioned, this is a building permit extension request. It is the 5th for the property at 4916 Ranch Road. And here's a little bit of history on the project. The original building permit was issued in January 3rd, 2023. It was for the demolition and construction of a new multi-story residence on a waterfront parcel below parcel Paradise Drive. You guys heard this item in December where you approved a 4th extension and a fee waiver at that time, and that is due to expire on July 3rd. So we're before you tonight to discuss a potential 5th 6-month extension. Unfortunately, that says reducing or waiving fees. Oh, because the applicant requested that. However, the Tiburon Municipal Code does not provide a mechanism for a reduction of or waiver of the 5th extension fees. As you know, the first building permit expires 18 months after it is issued. The building official can grant a 6-month extension free of charge, and then a subsequent 6-month extension with a fee of the original equal to the original permit fee. And then the 3rd extension is with a charge equal to 3 times the original permit fee. This is all directly from the municipal code. And as mentioned, a 4th extension may be granted by the town council with a payment of 5 times the permit fee. You guys, as I mentioned, approved that extension in December and did waive the fees. So this is directly from our code. The 5th extension can only be granted by the town council. The building official has extended his approval of the first 3, and now it's in your hands. And the code says you can impose additional requirements, such as a retention of a qualified contractor if it's felt that's necessary, or a qualified construction manager. and the language directly says the town council may reactivate and extend the permit upon imposition of any such conditions deemed reasonable relating to the above, and payment of 5 times the original project construction permit fees. And again, the whole municipal code that deals with this is Exhibit 1 in your packet. So in terms of where we're at with this project, as mentioned, we're here for the 5th extension. 5 times the permit fee would be $87,935. At this point, the bulk of the exterior construction work is complete. Most of the remaining work is interior and exterior finishing items, corrective measures, and landscaping. We're not sure, obviously, that the items can be completed by the next expiration deadline, which is January 2026. That doesn't make sense. Yes. So that should say January 2027. Forgive me, I was working on this really quickly today. So as mentioned, the property owner requested 5th extension and has asked for a waiver of fees. In her letter, which is included as Exhibit 3, she notes natural disasters in 2023 and 2024 and PG&E delays as justification for the extension and waiver of fees. So the property owner has indicated that they're working with a very skilled contractor now. They did replace their working crew, and they have committed, that crew has committed to accelerating the construction. They've hired a second foreman and a part-time project manager to assure completion within the next 6-month timeframe, which seems very reasonable and doable at this point. But obviously we cannot guarantee that it'll be done. So if granted, this is the fiscal impact. The building permit extension charge is 5 times the original building permit fee. As noted, this is required under TMC. As mentioned, there's no mechanism to eliminate the fee. The council may and has in the past considered a prorated amount where if they finish the work more quickly, then they can be refunded whatever, divided by 6, that would end up being. And this type of fee is considered general fund revenue. So this is the recommendation to grant the permit extension at 5 times the permit fee, since there is no other mechanism for that. You can add modified terms. Again, like I mentioned, you could choose to prorate the amount. And again, council has typically directed staff to impose the full fee and has at times prorated the fee amount as mentioned. The applicant has benefited from fee waiver of the same amount back in December. So this is a picture from Google Earth back in October 30th, 2025. I believe the roof is on now, and more work has been done. I'm here with Doug, the building official, who is more familiar with the project, and either one of us can try to answer your questions. And the applicant is here if you have questions for her. And that's the end of my presentation.
Okay, thank you. So questions by council, and then you'll have an opportunity to present. So if you hold on for a second, though.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
I'm just going to do a heat check here. Could we just move to approve this extension right now, or do we have to go through the additional steps?
Well, we can make the additional steps much shorter by asking a few questions and minimizing comments, but public comment must be heard.
Right. Okay. Because I remember in December we approved this, and I think it was in the letter too. I asked if that was enough time, but because it didn't look like it was going to be enough time in December.
Right. Understood.
Okay.
Yes.
I just want to ask about the cost to the town of these extensions. If the applicant is given a 6-month extension and in fact finishes in less than that, does that represent less cost to the town in inspections or whatever the town is involved in to the final approval?
The town is anticipating at least 10 more inspections before a certificate of occupancy is granted. But the basis for the fees is really just what is in the municipal code. And it specifically says for the 5th extension, it's town council. The 4th extension does include language that allows waiving of the fees. The 5th extension does not. And that would, so staff has no
No, what I'm
ability
trying to ask is the number of inspections that you perform fewer if the project is complete before, let's say, in 3 months instead of a 6-month extension?
No, the same things have to be inspected no matter
Got it.
Matter the
when
speed.
it's done. Sometimes inspections can be combined if things are, done at the same time, but the number of inspections would not change.
So the cost to the town is the same of providing the inspections, whether it's finished in 4 months or 6 months?
That is correct. But the fee amount is not intended to represent staff cost, unlike the item I had before you last time. This one is just what, at some point, a council adopted in terms of trying to inspire folks to complete their permits.
Right. It's intended to be a penalty.
Yes.
Well, you have to look at a reduction of the fee as a function of finishing early, whether it's an incentive to finish on time or just a discount for the next extension. But you can't follow that, can you? That's okay. But I was just wondering about costs to the town. That was it.
Okay.
So I have a question. I think this was answered the last time. But from both of your perspectives, has the applicant been trying to get this project done, as fast as they can?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I believe that the last several months, my understanding is that that the applicant had to change contractors. And that has been the reason that it's been extended. I don't know the reasons for changing contractors, but and she can speak to that probably better than I can, but it doesn't look like they're delaying the project. They're trying to keep it moving forward, but I don't know the reasons why it's not complete to this date.
Other questions for staff? Okay, so why don't you go ahead?
Okay, I'm sorry to
yourself.
keep you so late. Can I just say we bought this property during COVID in 2020, and we were hoping to and we had 10-year-old kids, and now our kids are 16 and they're going to college. And we are the most disappointed that the house is not done yet because we're building a
Yeah,
family
just
home.
1 second. I think this is a 3-minute comment, right? So we need to have the timer. All right. Okay, go ahead.
All right, let me say the reason that one thing is the reason our building is not done yet is a lot of it was the 2 natural disasters that I described last time. And Councilmember Ryan, you weren't here, but I put in the back of my materials some pictures that we are at the bottom of the watershed of Tiburon. And just like Greenwood Cove earlier, we get all the water. In fact, Marin County has perf pipes under the road leading onto our property. We take Paradise Drive's water as well. And so during these storms that were declared to be natural disasters, we couldn't build for 2 6-month periods. And so that is why I think the council agreed to give me a 6-month extension, but there was a second 6-month winter that was also a natural disaster, declared a natural disaster by the federal and California governments. And I want to say that the town council does waive fees when it's beyond an applicant's control. For example, once when a inspector was unavailable to come in a timely manner and it didn't let an applicant get a certificate of occupancy, the council agreed to waive the fees for that period of time. So where there are instances that are beyond an applicant's control, the town can grant fee waivers, and like it said, you can add any conditions you want onto here. And so one of the conditions could be a fee waiver. And I want to say that our, because of these natural disasters, I feel like we had 2 6-month periods that we were not able to build. And so I'm hoping that you would consider that not under my control and that you would agree to waive the fees for the second permit extension. Yeah.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? No. Okay. Do you have one? Okay. I was just going to say, what I'd like to get, I think what would be useful for the council in the spirit of kind of moving things along, is an interpretation from our council about what our discretion is with regard to the fee.
Yes, so this last section is very clear. The applicant has to pay the fee, the reactivation fee. You can't waive it, unlike the previous 6 months one we granted in December. You can have a pro rata reimbursement if you want to incentivize the finishing early to reimburse some of that payment of the fee, but under this provision, we can't waive the amount.
Any questions about that?
I do have a question. So the pro rata reimbursement, does it specify how we have to do that, or can we do it in any manner that we wish?
Any manner that you wish.
Okay, so I have an idea.
Yeah.
Can I go ahead?
Would
Okay.
you like to make a motion?
Yeah, so I talked about this last time, but this is this code section that I would love to work with staff on and bring an amendment back to the town council. And here's the reason why. The same deadlines and timelines apply to someone doing a kitchen remodel versus someone doing a very complicated project. And I don't think that the same timeline should apply. I think we have to make sure that when people pull a permit that they're doing the work in an expeditious fashion. But when there's a situation like this with 2 natural disasters, the council should have discretion on imposition of fees. And when a homeowner or property owner is really trying to get things done and beyond their control, they can't. I think that we need to have more discretion on some of the fees. So I have this idea that we approve. It sounds like we don't have discretion now under the code on the penalty. So what I think we could do is approve the extension of the permit and the fee. However, if the project do pro rata over the 6 months, but if the project is finished before the expiration of the 6 months, the whole fee is refunded. And here's my thinking on this. We already have the permit fee that was paid. And this would be another 6 times the fee. And so 5 times. Is it 5 times? I thought it was 5 times the fee. And so this would incentivize, the owner to get it done before the 6-month period, but would allow the fee to be either refunded or not imposed if they do it before the end of the 6-month period.
I'm not understanding this.
She's basically saying
Okay.
a full refund if they beat the 6-month clock.
So if they beat the 6-month clock, they would get a refund.
I see.
Of the
And
fee.
does that include prorating it if they,
Well, I think first I would ask the council to do the full refund versus the pro rata.
So I'll jump in and say, I think at this point, the pro rata is appropriate. And the reason I say that is I understand that there have been 2 6-month periods of disaster or inability to build, but that still means despite that, this has been a 4-year project. Is that correct? And the purpose behind these these rules is to try and, it's really about neighbors and community. It's, no project should stretch years and years and years and not be completed. So at this point, this has been happening for 5 years. I think pro rata provides a good incentive for moving quickly because your fee goes down the quicker you go. And it seems to me that, we provided a full waiver the last time, understanding that the situation, but I think this needs to come to a close. So it seems to me that a pro rata fee would be a fair approach.
Can I say something? Firstly, we as well as paying the permit fee, we did pay 2 extension fees before. There were 4 times, so we have paid 90,000 plus a donation to Reed School of 17,000 that you pay at the permit time. But also, I think that last time you did offer me another 3 months, so I'm wondering whether you could offer me, if we finish within 6 months, offer me a 3-month rebate.
I think, I don't remember, but I think that discussion must have been a question of whether we could legally do it. And I think the answer was we had to stick with the code provided.
I think it was, sorry to interrupt, that you offered it and then the town council said we couldn't, but you did offer at that
right.
time.
It was, it was something that we aspired to offer.
So if I could get the 3 months back, if we finish within 6, a 3-month rebate, if we finish within 6 months.
I would be supportive of that. I am still a little bit skeptical about 6 months, though. I looked at the construction timeline, and it looks like you're going to get final permitting in November. My understanding is it's pretty rare that those timelines work out perfectly and don't go over. So I'll go back to the same question, which is, are we allowed to at all extend this longer than 6 months?
No, the code does not
So
permit
that we don't end up back here in
Well, if we end
October
up
with the
back here,
same-
let me just be clear. So this is the last extension our code allows. So if she doesn't make this 6 months, we're in a world where she's going to have to, I'll talk to the building official, but go back to but her building permit expires. There's nothing the council can do to rectify that.
So then she would have to apply for a new building.
Correct.
But yeah, I would be supportive of, 3 months if she's able to finish it in 6.
3 times?
No, she would get back
Get
3
back
months.
3 months of the penalty.
Half
Yeah.
the penalty.
Yeah, half the penalty.
I still think 100%, but I would go with 3 months and rewriting this section because it's not a one size fits all thing as far as I see. And I don't think there's been any complaints on this project, the duration. Okay, yeah.
We
No,
get on
I'm
great.
still supportive of simplifying this and not creating precedents and just prorating the fee amount if the project is finalized prior to the 6-month extension.
Okay,
Yeah, that's probably what I'd support too, just for simplicity.
okay, so let's see.
So I think there's probably 3 council members that have support for the pro rata approach. So we probably should move on to the next time.
You want to move it?
I would make a motion that we grant a 5th building permit extension for this project and prorate the fee amount if the project is finalized prior to the new 6 months deadline.
I second that.
Wait, that wasn't what, it was supposed to be prorated the whole time, not if it's finished before the next deadline.
It's the same
It
thing.
was
If you
asked to
finish it
make
after
the
3 months,
motion,
it's
and
prorated
that's what
3 months.
I supported.
She's saying the same thing.
I thought what she was saying was that the fees imposed and then it's not prorated unless she finishes within 6 months. That's what I heard the motion as.
Mathematically, it's the same. If you finish after 6 months, then the proration is 100%.
I think it needs to be clarified that it's prorated every month.
So I think maybe what you're saying is you want it to be paid monthly as opposed to paid all up front and then refunded. Is that what you're saying?
Well, let me be clear. We have to accept payment for the full 6 months upfront under our code. And then the question is, what sort of structure do you want to rebate if she finishes early?
Right. And so the idea, I think what was proposed by Councilmember Fredericks is when it's completed, if it's completed in less than 6 months, you get a refund for the remaining piece.
Okay, so that's clarified.
Is that right?
Yes.
And that's what I'll second.
Councilmember Fredericks,
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
Councilmember Thier,
No.
Vice Mayor Nickbar,
No.
and Mayor Wellner.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for the permit extension and for everything you've done today. Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, so I don't know what the answer to this is going to be, but there is a potential option that I asked the town manager to look into, which is if we need to deal with the paving question soon, but if we don't want to do it tonight, we could schedule a special meeting next week and deal with just that. So it's up to you guys what you would prefer to do.
Why don't we do it?
The special meeting would have to be by Wednesday next week.
I would prefer doing it tonight.
It sounds like we have to get this done.
Yeah.
And
I'm just tossing it out for you guys because I understand it's late.
David did promise to talk really fast, so.
All right, staff report on the final item. Paving.
can we have like a 2-minute recess?
Sure. 2-minute recess.
Okay. Oh, recess.
Please, go ahead.
Mayor, council members, we're here this evening to discuss the 2026 pavement maintenance project. The recommended actions are to authorize the town manager to approve the award contract for the 26 pavement project to Pavement Coatings Company for $1,665,179 and authorize the town manager to approve construction contract change orders up to 8% of the construction cost, and also authorize the town manager to approve the construction management services with Pavement Engineering Inc. in the amount of $174,115 for construction management of the project. Here's a little background of the pavement index. The PCI 100 is good, 0 is failed. And this will show us here this graph that we have right now with slurry. Where are we at? With slurry, we are in this zone. This is the most cost effective. We're around $2.50 a square foot to preserve our pavement. We don't want it to come down further than this area, which is where pretty much all our streets are, into the good and at risk. When you come down here, major reconstruction is going to cost close to $65 a square foot. Right here is a kind of a roadway network here that was taken in 2024 with our PCI. We've got 36 center miles of roadway, almost 2 miles of arterial. Average PCI is 65. Collectors, a little over 3 miles. 83 is our PCI, which is in the good area. Our residential, which makes up the bulk, 77, almost 78%. That's a solid 75, which is, close to the at-risk. Others are some private streets at 82. So our average here is 75 PCI for the town. The engineer, we went out to bid. The engineer's opinion of probable cost was almost 1.5 million. Project was put out to bid May 7th. We opened bids on May 28th and we received 3 bids. Pavement Coatings was our apparent low bidder at $1,665,000. VSS International came in at second with $1,758,211, and then Major Gelati $2,405,405. Staff reviewed the bid submitted by Pavement Coating Inc. or company. They have a valid contractor's license. They submitted all the required documents. The bid is over the engineer's estimate by $175,000, just around 10.5%. The difference between them and the low bidder is 5%. And staff is recommending council authorize the town manager to approve change orders not to exceed 8% of the contract amount. And here on last fiscal year, which will end actually this end of this month, we spent almost $114,000 on design. Projected cost for this year, this upcoming fiscal year, $1.665 million for construction, $143,000 for construction contingencies. That's 8%, which with slurries we don't tend to use much of that, if any. And then the construction management, $174,000, totaling $1,982,508, just below what town council approved in our CIP for this upcoming fiscal year. This is a project location map. We are working on a lot of streets here in Tiburon, 36 streets, 41 segments total. This is we call it the northwest quadrant as you enter Tiburon. So all those streets will have slurry seals and pavement restoration done to them, which is a lot of streets here that will be maintained for the next 5 to 7 years with good PCIs. This slide here shows all of the streets that we're working on and their current PCI. Yes, there are some that are high, 92, 92, 90, but a majority of them are in the 70 range to the low 80, getting close to that at risk. Estimated pavement deterioration. I just want to let town council know that residential streets in good condition typically lose 2 to 4 PCI points per year. Collector Street, which is like Blackfield, Reed Ranch, heavily traveled streets, they lose between 3 to 6 PCIs a year. So once a pavement begins developing significant cracks, base failures, drainage issues, or utility cuts, deterioration can accelerate rapidly with losses of 10 or more PCI points in a single year. So when we have an 80 or a 90, and if we don't touch it for a year or two, it may drop down 15 points, which will cost a lot more to fix and rehab. Instead of slurring, we'd have to reconstruct it. This is the what Town Council approved earlier on the consent item, the FY 26-27 CIP budget. This is how we're planning to fund this project. $890,000 from the Tiburon Street Impact Fund, $350,000 from our SB1 fund, County Measure A Transportation $350,000, and the gas tax $400,000. All of these are restricted funds, specific only to be used on pavement projects.
They can't be used for anything else? They can't be used for anything else?
Yeah, these are restricted just for paving projects only. So no general fund here. These are all strictly paving for paving. And then back to the recommendations to authorize the town manager to approve the contract for the 26 pavement maintenance project to Pavement Coatings Company for $1,665,179, and authorize the town manager to approve construction contract change orders up to 8% of the construction amount for unforeseen issues, and also authorize the town manager to approve the construction management services contract Pavement Engineering Inc. in the amount of $174,115 for the construction management of this project. And with that, I'm available for any questions.
Okay, can you go back to the page with the streets and the numbers? Okay. So you mentioned that there are a number of streets here in the 90s and some in the 80s. Why do we include those streets?
So that is, we're starting a new process here in town. Instead of jumping around like we used to with slurries, which actually increased the mobilization and demob, we are breaking the peninsula up into quadrants and focusing on the northeast quadrant, which is this area here by Blackfield, up as quadrant 1. And we're touching all those streets now. And then we're going to keep moving down the peninsula, meaning that all these streets, we will not need to touch any of them for at least 7 to 10 years. So by the time we get to Old Town Tiburon and we're working here, we'll come back up here and it'll be time to slurry this area again. So instead of jumping around, value engineering so that the contractor's not moving across town to different areas.
Brilliant.
But if you didn't do the 92s on the list, could there be a cost savings to the town?
There could be a cost savings, not just from the mobilization, but it'll be just material part because the contractor will already be there. And you're looking right around $2.35 a square foot of cost savings for some of these roads. But the problem would be that if we don't get to them in another 3 to 5 years, that those 90s would be down into the 80s, and they may require not just a slurry, but we may have to do some sub-base improvements, which would increase the cost, just accelerated increase in what prices will be in 5 to 7 years from now.
Do we have any history with this contractor? Has this contractor done other projects for the town of Tiburon?
Not this contractor here, but he has done a lot of work in the Bay Area, South Bay. So they're a big company.
I'm sorry, how long will it take to do the project?
This project, if awarded today, they'll plan to start right after the 4th of July weekend, and we'll wrap it up within a week or 2 of school starting.
Then I had one more question. Do you know about how many streets are in the 90s that we would be then, redoing?
Yeah,
even though
I
they
was just
don't need
counting.
to be done?
There are 15 in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
I mean, across Tiburon as a whole, because this whole plan to do quadrants versus demobilizing and remobilizing makes sense, but has the town looked at the incremental cost of doing the pavement maintenance on the pavement that doesn't really need it right at this moment.
Yeah, we did, PEI did look at the whole peninsula and, we're in very good shape. If we look at the map in our, PMI that they finished up, majority of the streets are in the green. We just can't let them deteriorate more. And what causes a lot of this is we get a lot of folks that come in and do maintenance on their sewer laterals, on their water laterals. The Richardson Bay right now is doing major work in this area. So if we don't touch any of these streets that are in the 80s and 90s, by the time we do come back to them again with accelerated costs and major deterioration, we may end up doing more than just slurring. We'll have to go in there and do dig outs. It'll end up costing more.
Is there a map view of this, of the work?
Yes.
So,
I have no concerns about the proposed project and the request to authorize award of these contracts. And I will make a motion to do so.
Do public comment first.
yeah, before we go to public comment, I would just say, so this is very quick math, but it looked to me like there were 8 or 9 roads that were in the 90s and about 40 roads altogether. So it's approximately 20% of the roads that we're paving are in the 90s. I think I'm inclined, basically, because these funds are all restricted for road repaving. I think I'll vote to support the proposed project, but I think it would be useful to have staff analysis presented when it's not time to support a proposal that shows us the relative cost of doing it this way versus doing it based on, let's just hit roads that are in the 70s, for example. Because what you say kind of makes kind of some intuitive sense from a storytelling point of view, but it's not entirely clear to me that we should be, that a fifth of our money that we're spending on paving roads should be going to roads that are in their 90s. That seems excessive to me. But I'm not an expert in this area, so there's some our staff are excellent. We expect that what they're presenting us with is the correct thing to do, but it would be useful to have some more analysis presented in writing, as opposed, it doesn't have to be in a meeting, but just some kind of written analysis that explains to us why the approach of paving roads that are 70s, 80s, and 90s in an area makes more sense than just paving roads that are in the 70s, for example. So I think that's a request that I would make. Staff, so that we have that analysis before the next time this comes before us.
On this map, where do they start and where do they end? Project. And the reason I ask is that school traffic is incredibly disruptive to new asphalt. Are they planning on, like, for instance, doing Karen first?
Yes, so when we have our pre-con meeting, we will make sure that they do they slurry the streets that are the travel path to and from schools first. So by the time school starts, those streets are already cured and ready to go.
And also, you can get in and out of that neighborhood via Reed Ranch or via Capistrano and Blackfield So you wouldn't want to do both of those both of those directions at the same time. You'd kind of want to do one or the other.
That is correct.
That's all part of, I just wanted to confirm that's all baked into the plan.
That is baked through the traffic management plan, yes.
This is I mean, I understand what Mayor Wellner is saying. This is a shift, and it's a transformational shift in terms of how we manage the roads. It makes an intuitive sense in terms of cost savings, which I appreciate. But I also understand like wanting to be I'd like to learn more and be educated about this process as well.
Yeah, I can prepare a memo, basically, that'll
Be
just
great.
outline.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say I don't need that education to hold up the decision for tonight, but I would like to understand more about why we're shifting to this kind of quadrant-based model. And also there are some streets that aren't covered in that neighborhood, in the neighborhood. What's the rationale for not covering that? Is it because they're 100? Because
They're 110.
right.
Those streets were recently repaved by PG&E in their project last year, and
That's really helpful.
yeah.
Thank you, David.
That's a good reason.
Yeah.
Other questions, or can we go to public comment? Okay, public comment. No one's in the room. Is there anyone online?
Seeing none.
Okay, we'll close the public comment and move back to the council. Comments or motion?
I'd like to move to approve.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Fredericks.
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
Councilmember Thier. Vice Mayor Nickfar.
Yes.
And Mayor Wellner.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, that's the final action item. Now we're gonna have closed session, which has been promised to be quick. So we'll adjourn to closed session and then, oh yes, public comment for closed session. Is there anyone online?
Seeing none.
Okay, thank you. So we will exit for public session and then report back. Previous years. No.
Okay.
We're back in session. Nothing to report, and we are adjourned.